Blood filled Rebecca Martinez's mouth as the zip tie bit deeper into her wrists. Captain Diego Rojas circled her like a predator, his laugh echoing off concrete walls. "Tie her up. She's harmless." He scoffed to his men, gesturing dismissively at the 48-year-old woman slumped in the chair. "What is this? They send us a grandmother." 8 cartel enforcers laughed with him, weapons hanging loose at their sides. None of them noticed Becca's hazel eyes tracking every movement, cataloging every mistake they were making. They had 7 minutes to live. Before we show you what happened in that room, drop a comment telling us what city you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button, because this story will take you places you never expected, and I want to see how far it travels. Now let's get into what those men never saw coming. The concrete scraped against Becca's cheek as Rojas shoved her head down, his breath hot and rank with cigarettes and cheap tequila. The warehouse temperature hovered somewhere north of 90 degrees, and sweat mixed with blood as it traced paths down her neck. "Where are your friends, abuela?" Rojas demanded, switching from Spanish to English. "Where is your backup? Or did they abandon the old woman?" Becca said nothing. 25 years as a Navy SEAL had taught her that silence was often the most devastating response. Let them talk. Let them assume. Let them make mistakes. And they were making so many mistakes. "Boss, maybe we should just shoot her and dump the body." One of the younger enforcers suggested, a kid who couldn't have been more than 22. The AK-47 in his hands was pristine, probably his first real weapon. He held it like a prop, not a tool. "No, no, no." Rojas said, that cruel smile spreading across his face. "El Espectro wants to know who sent her. We make her talk first. Then we kill her." Becca's mind, trained through thousands of hours of the most punishing military program on Earth, was already 3 steps ahead. 12 by 15-foot room. 1 steel-reinforced door currently closed. 2 windows high and barred. 8 hostiles with varying levels of competence. The young one with the AK would panic first. The older one by the door, the one with the scar running from eyebrow to jaw, he was former military. Mexican Army, if she had to guess. He'd be the dangerous one, but dangerous wasn't the same as prepared. "You know what I think?" Rojas continued, pulling up a metal folding chair and sitting backwards on it, arms crossed over the back. "I think you are nobody. I think you are just some stupid American woman who thought she could play hero. Come down to the border, save some migrants, feel good about yourself." He leaned forward, his face inches from hers. "But you picked the wrong warehouse to snoop around Grandma. Now you die here and nobody will even know your name." The irony almost made Becca smile. Her name had been classified for 20 years. Her service record was sealed so tight that 3 presidents didn't have clearance to read it. And this small-time cartel captain thought she was a tourist who got lost. "Nothing to say," Rojas mocked. "No begging, no crying. American women always cry." Becca finally spoke, her voice raspy from thirst and blood, but steady as granite. "You hit me." Rojas blinked, surprised she'd spoken at all. "See, I hit you. I will hit you more. That is how this works." "No," Becca said softly. "You don't understand. You hit me. That was your first mistake." Something in her tone made the scarred veteran by the door straighten slightly, his hand shifting on his weapon. He recognized something in her voice, some quality he'd heard before in dangerous places. But Rojas just laughed. "Oh, the abuela is tough. She threatens me while tied to a chair." He looked at his men. "Did you hear that? She says I made a mistake." The other enforcers joined his laughter, but Becca noticed the scarred one wasn't laughing. He was watching her with the intensity of a man who'd seen combat, who'd learned to recognize threats that didn't look threatening. "Boss," he said quietly, "maybe we should..." "Should what, Ernesto?" "Be scared of an old woman." Rojas stood up, kicking the chair away. "Search her again. Make sure we didn't miss anything." 2 enforcers moved forward, and Becca felt rough hands patting her down again, checking pockets, pulling at her clothing. They'd already done this twice, found nothing but a driver's license in the name Sarah Henderson, $43 in cash, and a cell phone with a cracked screen. What they didn't find was the small ceramic blade sewn into the inner seam of her sleeve, positioned exactly where her thumb could reach it if her hands were zip-tied behind her back. What they didn't notice was that she'd been slowly, methodically working that blade against the plastic ties for the last 10 minutes while they gloated and threatened. Standard issue zip ties had a tensile strength of about 175 pounds, but that assumed the tie was intact. With the right angle, the right amount of pressure, a ceramic blade could reduce that strength by 70% without leaving an obvious cut mark. Becca had maybe 2 more minutes of work. She needed to keep them talking. "How long have you worked for El Espectro?" she asked. Rojas's smile vanished. He moved fast for a big man, his fist connecting with her jaw again. Stars exploded across her vision. "I ask the questions. You do not speak unless I tell you to speak." Becca spit blood onto the concrete floor. 6 years, she said, as if he hadn't hit her at all. "You've worked for him for 6 years. Started as a street dealer in Hermosillo. Moved up to enforcement. Made your bones during the Sinaloa territorial dispute in 2019. El Espectro noticed you because you were willing to do things other men wouldn't." The room went dead quiet. Rojas stared at her, his face draining of color. "How do you know this?" "Got promoted to captain 15 months ago." Becca continued, her voice conversational despite the blood running down her chin. "Your territory is the eastern corridor, Ciudad Juarez to El Paso. You run weapons, not drugs. Specifically, you receive shipments from an American supplier and distribute them to cartel operations across Chihuahua State. Who are you?" Rojas's voice had lost its mocking edge. Now it carried something else: fear. "Your supplier uses the code name Cerberus. You've never met them face to face. All transactions are handled through encrypted channels, but your last shipment was compromised. 3 Border Patrol agents were killed with weapons that originated from your supply line." Ernesto, the scarred veteran, had his weapon up, now pointed directly at her. "Boss, she's intelligence. American intelligence. We need to kill her now and move locations." "No," Rojas snapped. "We find out who sent her. We find out what she knows. Then we kill her." He grabbed Becca's hair, yanking her head back. "Who sent you, CIA, DEA? Who?" Becca felt the zip tie part with a barely audible snap. The ceramic blade had done its work, but her hands remained behind her back posture unchanged. Timing was everything. "One of those agents was 24 years old," she said quietly. "His name was Tommy Reeves. He'd been on the job for 8 months. His father was a Navy SEAL, same as me. I trained with his father. I taught him how to survive." "So this is revenge." Rojas laughed, but it sounded hollow now. "An old woman comes for revenge." "His father couldn't come," Becca said. "Tommy's death broke something in him, so I came instead." "Then you came to die." "No," Becca said, and her voice carried such absolute certainty that even Rojas took a step back. "I came to kill you all." The young enforcer with the pristine AK-47 laughed nervously. "Boss, she's crazy. Let's just—" Becca moved. 25 years of training, 8 years of active combat deployment, dozens of missions that never made it into any official record, all of it compressed into a single explosive second. Her hands came free. The ceramic blade, still gripped in her right hand, flashed toward the young enforcer who'd stepped too close. The blade found the inside of his elbow, severing the brachial artery with surgical precision. He screamed and dropped the AK-47. Becca rolled forward, ignoring the shriek of pain from her bad knee, scooping up the weapon as she came to her feet. The problem with 8-to-1 odds is that not everyone can shoot at once without risking crossfire. Military training teaches you to spread out, maintain fields of fire, coordinate movement. These men had no such training. The first burst from Becca's newly acquired weapon took down 2 enforcers who'd bunched together near the door. Ernesto, the veteran, dove behind a stack of wooden crates already returning fire. Smart man. He'd last the longest. Rojas scrambled backward, reaching for his sidearm, screaming orders in Spanish. "Kill her! Kill her now!" But Becca was already moving, using the concrete support pillars for cover. At 48, she couldn't rely on pure speed anymore. But she didn't need to. She had something more valuable. She knew what they'd do before they did it. The enforcer to her left would spray and pray, wasting ammunition. The one to her right would try to flank. The one behind the overturned table would wait for her to commit to a direction before firing. She'd been fighting men like this for longer than most of them had been alive. The AK-47 barked 3-round bursts. Controlled. Precise. Each burst meant for a specific target. The flanker went down with a bullet through his thigh, screaming. Not dead, but out of the fight. "She's just one woman," Rojas shrieked, his voice cracking with panic. "8 of us. 8. 6 now," Becca corrected, her voice eerily calm. "And counting." Her phone, the one with the cracked screen they'd been so dismissive of, suddenly blared to life in the pile of her confiscated belongings. The ringtone was an old Eagles song, Hotel California. Rojas stared at the phone like it was a snake. Nobody moved. The phone rang again. Once, twice, 3 times, then stopped. "That was my daughter," Becca said, still behind cover, reloading with practiced efficiency. "She's a Marine lieutenant. She calls me every Wednesday at 2 p.m. She glanced at her watch, a battered Luminox that had survived 3 continents and a dozen firefights. "It's 2:03. She'll be worried I didn't answer. She'll call again in 5 minutes. If I don't answer, then she'll call my handler. My handler will call his boss. His boss will light up the operations center. Within 30 minutes, there'll be satellite surveillance over this building and a response team en route." Becca popped up from behind the pillar, fired twice. Another enforcer down. "Or..." She continued, dropping back into cover as return fire chewed into the concrete. "You can let me walk out of here. I take what I came for. You live to run away." "What did you come for?" Rojas shouted. "Information. About Cerberus. About the weapons pipeline. About who in American military intelligence is selling out their own country. I don't know who Cerberus is. I swear everything is done through encrypted channels." "Then you're no use to me," Becca said simply. She moved again, fast and low. Ernesto tracked her, leading his shots like a professional. Bullets sparked off concrete inches from her head. He was good, really good. But good wasn't enough. Becca threw herself into a slide, firing as she moved. Ernesto took a round in the shoulder and went down hard behind the crates. Not dead. He'd survive if he got medical attention soon. 4 down. 4 to go. "Wait!" Rojas screamed. "Wait, wait, wait! I have files on the computer in the office. All our transactions, all the communications, everything." Becca paused, weapon still raised. "Where's the office?" "Upstairs. Through that door, the computer, the password is." Becca shot him in the leg. Rojas went down screaming, clutching his thigh as blood poured between his fingers. "That's for Tommy Reeves," she said. "The next one's for his father." The 3 remaining enforcers were backing toward the steel door, weapons raised but hands shaking. They'd signed up to terrorize unarmed civilians to play tough guys for the cartel. They hadn't signed up to fight a woman who moved like death itself. "Go," Becca said. "Run. Tell El Espectro what happened here. Tell him a 48-year-old grandmother made 8 of his men look like amateurs." They didn't need to be told twice. The door crashed open, and they disappeared into the afternoon heat. Becca stood in the center of the warehouse, surrounded by groaning men and the smell of cordite and blood. Her knee was screaming. Her jaw throbbed where Rojas had hit her. Her hands shook from the adrenaline dump, but she was alive. She walked to where Rojas lay, bleeding, crouching beside him. "The computer password, 11-11-23, he gasped. "November 23rd. What's significant about that date?" "El Espectro's birthday. Please. I need a hospital." "You'll get one. But first tell me everything you know about Cerberus." "I told you I don't know. I never met them. Everything is electronic." Becca studied his face. Terror, pain, but no deception. He was telling the truth. She pulled out a pressure bandage from her boot, always prepared, and wrapped his leg with efficient, impersonal movements. "That'll keep you alive until the ambulance gets here." She moved to Ernesto, who was conscious but in shock from the shoulder wound. "You're military," she said as she worked on his injury. "Where'd you serve, Bob?" "Mexican Marines," he gasped. "Fought the cartels for 6 years before..." Before they made you a better offer. He didn't answer, but his eyes told the story. It was an old one. Soldiers who fought monsters sometimes became them. You knew what I was, Becca said. Why didn't you shoot first? My sister, Ernesto whispered. She joined the Mexican Navy 2 years ago. First woman in our family to serve. When I look at you, I see what she might become. I couldn't. You hesitated because of her, Becca said softly. That hesitation saved your life. The others rushed. You held back. That's why you're still breathing. She secured his wound and stood, then moved to check on the young enforcer who'd been first down. He was unconscious from blood loss, but stable. She'd cut the artery, not severed it. He'd live, assuming he got help soon. Becca's phone rang again. Right on schedule. Emma. She answered, keeping her voice steady despite everything. Hey, sweetheart. Mom. Where were you? You always answer on the second ring. Her daughter's voice carried that particular mix of worry and irritation that only adult children could master. Sorry, honey. I was in the middle of something. In the middle of what, Mom? You promised me you were done with dangerous work. You said you were consulting on security protocols, not... Emma. Becca's tone carried enough command to cut through her daughter's rising panic. I'm fine. I'm always fine. That's what Dad used to say. The words hit harder than Rojas's fist. Becca closed her eyes, seeing David's face in her mind. The way he'd smiled at her the morning he'd left for what should have been a routine patrol. The flag they'd handed her at his funeral folded with precision that meant nothing compared to the hole in her world. I know, Becca said quietly. I know what I used to say too, but I'm coming home, Emma, I promise. When? Soon. That's not an answer. It's the best one I have right now. Emma was silent for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller, younger. I'm deploying Mom to the border. Operation Phoenix. They gave us the brief this morning. Becca's blood ran cold. What sector? They didn't specify yet. Full details come tomorrow. But it's a big operation. Multi-agency coordination, DEA, Border Patrol, National Guard. They're saying it's the largest counter-cartel operation in a decade. The pieces clicked together in Becca's mind with horrifying clarity. Emma, listened to me very carefully. Do not, and I mean do not, participate in Operation Phoenix until I call you back. Tell your CO you have a family emergency. Mom, I can't just... Emma Marie Martinez, I have never asked you to compromise your duty. I have never asked you to put family before service. I'm asking now. Do not go on that operation until I call you. The silence stretched. Then, you know something. I know that the weapons used to kill Tommy Reeves came from inside our own military. I know that there's someone high up who's selling out our people. And I know that if they're targeting the largest counter-cartel operation in a decade, your unit might be walking into an ambush. Oh my God. I need 24 hours. Give me 24 hours to confirm what I'm thinking. Then I'll brief your command myself. Mom, if you're right, I'm right. I'm always right about this stuff. You know that. Emma laughed, but it was strained. Yeah, I know. I love you, sweetheart. Tell me you'll wait. I'll wait. But Mom, be careful. I can't lose you too. You won't. I'm too mean to die. They ended the call and Becca stood in the warehouse among the wreckage of Rojas's crew, her mind racing. She had confirmation that Cerberus was real. She had confirmation of a weapons pipeline. And now she had confirmation that whatever was coming, it was big enough to target a major military operation. Tommy Reeves's death hadn't been random. It had been a test run. And Emma was about to walk into the real attack. Becca climbed the stairs to the office, each step sending jolts of pain through her bad knee. The office was exactly what she expected: cheap furniture, stacks of paperwork, and a desktop computer that looked like it was from 2010. She typed in the password, 1123. The system unlocked. What she found in the next 10 minutes would change everything. The files were meticulously organized. Transaction records, dates, times, quantities of weapons. But more importantly, there were photographs. Metadata. GPS coordinates embedded in images that the sender probably didn't even know were there. and they're buried in a subfolder labeled Insurance. She found it. A photograph of a woman in U.S. Army uniform, Colonel's eagles gleaming on her shoulders. The photo was taken at what looked like a military ball, formal and proper. But in the background, partially visible, was another figure. A man Becca didn't recognize. She ran the image through a facial recognition program on her phone. A little gift from Marcus Chen, her DIA handler. Highly illegal. Extremely useful. The match came back in 30 seconds. Colonel Patricia Morrison, 52 years old, 28 years of service. Currently assigned to Defense Logistics Agency, responsible for coordinating equipment transfers and supply chain management for military operations across 3 southwestern states. "Oh, Patricia," Becca whispered to the screen. "What did you do?" She'd known Patricia Morrison for 15 years. They'd crossed paths multiple times in their careers. Morrison had always been professional, competent, a bit cold. But Becca had never suspected. Wait. Becca opened another file, this one containing email chains. The account names were anonymized, but the content was clear enough. Discussions of shipment schedules, equipment, manifests, payment arrangements. And there, in one message dated 3 years ago, a single line that made Becca's breath catch. "The diversity hire got the promotion I earned. They chose gender over competence. Again." Becca knew exactly which promotion that referred to. 3 years ago, she'd been selected as a senior consultant for a high-level security contract. Patricia Morrison had been the other finalist. This wasn't just about money, this was personal. Becca downloaded everything to an encrypted drive, then made 3 backup copies using different cloud services. Marcus had taught her well, never trust a single point of failure. She was pulling the drive from the USB port when her phone buzzed. Not a call, a text, from an unknown number. "You should have stayed retired, Becca. Now your daughter pays the price." The phone slipped from her hand, clattering on the desk. They knew her real name. They knew about Emma, and they were already moving. Becca grabbed her phone, her fingers flying across the screen as she called Marcus Chen. It went straight to voicemail. She tried his emergency number. Same thing. No. She called the DIA Operations Center using her authentication codes. The line rang 4 times before someone picked up. "Operations, this is Lieutenant Foster. This is Blackwood Authentication Code Delta 749er, Quebec. I need immediate contact with Handler Chen Marcus. Priority Alpha." "One moment." The hold music was some generic jazz that made Becca want to throw the phone through the window. She counted seconds. 30, 45, 60. "Ma'am, I'm showing Handler Chen's status as temporarily unavailable." "What does that mean?" "I can't provide details over an unsecured line, but his GPS tracker went offline approximately 2 hours ago." 2 hours ago. Right around the time Becca had been captured and brought to this warehouse. Where was his last known location? I really can't. Lieutenant Foster. My authentication code gives me level 4 clearance. Handler Chen is my primary contact for an active operation involving domestic weapons trafficking and possible military corruption. His GPS went offline at the exact time I was compromised. Now give me his last known location before I have your commanding officer explain to a congressional oversight committee why you obstructed a national security investigation. The silence lasted 3 seconds. El Paso, ma'am. Warehouse District. Address is 1847 Industrial Boulevard. That's where I am right now. Say so. Ma'am. Marcus was tracking me. He knew I was coming here. If his GPS went offline, it means someone took him out before he could provide backup. I'll send a team. No teams. Listen very carefully. Someone inside the DIA is compromised. Someone with high-level access. Until I determine who we operate under the assumption that any official channels are blown. You tell no one about this conversation. You log it as a routine authentication check. Understood. Ma'am, I really should. That's an order, Lieutenant. Lives depend on this. Another pause. Then, understood, ma'am, but please, be careful. Becca ended the call and stood in the office surrounded by evidence of betrayal, her handler missing or dead, her daughter walking into a trap, and somewhere out there, a woman she'd once respected was orchestrating it all. She looked down at her hands. They were steady now. No more shakes, no more adrenaline. Just the cold, clear focus that had carried her through 25 years of impossible situations. She thought of David, her husband killed 8 years ago by an IED in Afghanistan. She thought of the promise she'd made at his funeral, standing in the rain with Emma, beside her, both of them breaking, but refusing to break down. "I'll live," she'd whispered to his grave. "Not just survive, live. And I'll protect our daughter with everything I am." She'd kept that promise for 8 years. She wasn't about to break it now. Becca pulled out a burner phone from her pocket. She'd bought it before the mission, because paranoia wasn't paranoia if you were usually right, and dialed a number she'd sworn she'd never use again. It rang twice before a gravel-rough voice answered. "Blackwood, didn't expect to hear from you again." "Hello, Jack. I need to call in that favor." Jack Reeves, father of the dead Border Patrol agent, father of her former SEAL teammate, had told her at his son's funeral that he owed her one. Anything. Anytime. She was collecting now. "What do you need?" "Your son's murder wasn't random. It was a field test for a larger operation. Someone inside military intelligence is selling weapons to the cartels. They're planning to hit a Marine operation called Phoenix. My daughter's in that unit." The silence on the other end was the silence of a man who'd lost everything once and understood he might be asked to lose even more. "Where and when? I don't know yet, but I have files, evidence, and I have a name. Colonel Patricia Morrison. She's our Cerberus. The logistics officer, I've met her, cold as ice. She's also the one who supplied the weapons that killed Tommy." Another silence, longer this time. When Jack spoke again, his voice carried the weight of decades of service and grief. "What do you need from me?" "I need you to gather anyone from the old days who's still breathing and still capable. I need operators, Jack. People who can move fast and hit hard. People we can trust absolutely." "How many?" "As many as you can find, but I need them in El Paso by tomorrow morning." "That's not much time." "It's all we have. Emma's unit deploys in 36 hours. Then we'll be there. Blackwood." "Yeah. Don't die before I get there. I already buried my son. I don't want to bury his godmother too." Becca felt tears sting her eyes for the first time since entering the warehouse. "I'll do my best, Jack." She ended the call and looked around the office one last time. Evidence downloaded. Backup secured. 3 dead or wounded cartel enforcers downstairs. 1 captain who'd lived to face prosecution. Not a bad day's work for a 48-year-old grandmother. She was halfway down the stairs when the warehouse door exploded inward. Becca hit the deck, rolling behind a concrete pillar as automatic weapons fire ripped through the space where she'd been standing. Chunks of concrete rained down around her. "Secure the building. Find the American," someone shouted in Spanish. Becca counted at least 6 different weapons firing. Professional, coordinated. This wasn't the panicked spray and pray of Rojas's crew. This was El Espectro's response team, and they were here to make sure she never left this warehouse alive. She checked the AK-47 she'd taken from the first enforcer. Half a magazine left, maybe 15 rounds, against 6 or more trained killers. "I'm too old for this," she muttered to herself. Then she smiled, thinking of what she'd told Rojas before everything went sideways. At 48, she didn't have the speed of her youth, but she had something those young operators downstairs would never have until they survived what she'd survived. She had experience, she had patience, and she had absolutely nothing left to lose. "All right then," Becca whispered, checking her sight lines and planning her first move. "Let's see if they underestimate me twice." The first hostile came through the door with textbook precision weapon up, eyes scanning for targets. Becca let him take 3 steps inside before she fired a single round that dropped him where he stood. "Contact 2nd floor," someone shouted. Becca was already moving, using the distraction to relocate. Her bad knee protested every step, but adrenaline was a hell of an anesthetic. She positioned herself behind a support column with clear sightlines to the stairwell and the main entrance. 2 more operatives rushed through the door, moving to flank their downed teammate. These weren't cartel thugs. They moved like military, like men who'd been trained by someone who knew what they were doing. Becca fired twice. One went down. The other dove behind a stack of pallets. She's alone. One shooter, 2nd floor east side. Alone. They thought she was alone. Let them keep thinking that. Rojas, still conscious despite the leg wound, started screaming from where he lay. She's American intelligence. She knows everything. She has the files. Shut up, Becca hissed, but the damage was done. The operative behind the pallets popped up, firing a burst that forced Becca back behind cover. Concrete dust filled her mouth and nose. El Espectro wants her alive if possible. Another voice called out. He wants to know what she knows. Well, that was something. They'd be hesitant to use explosives or spray the building with automatic fire if they wanted her breathing. Becca's phone buzzed in her pocket. Not now. Not now. But it kept buzzing. Someone calling repeatedly. She risked a glance. Marcus Chen's number. Her heart leaped. He was alive. She answered, keeping her voice low. Marcus, I'm kinda busy. Becca. The voice wasn't Marcus. It was older, rougher. Marcus can't come to the phone right now. He's indisposed. Ice flooded Becca's veins. Who is this? My name is Dmitry Volkov. I believe you have something that belongs to my organization. Files, evidence, things that could prove inconvenient. Russian accent, refined, educated. The Pantheon, Becca said. A pause, then laughter, genuine and warm, like they were old friends sharing a joke. Ah, so you know more than we thought. That's unfortunate. For you, I mean. Where's Marcus? Alive, for now. Whether he stays that way depends entirely on your next choices. Gunfire erupted from below. The operatives were moving, trying to flank her position. Becca fired blind around the column, just enough to make them think twice. I'm listening, she said into the phone. The files you downloaded. Delete them. All copies. Then surrender to my men downstairs. Do this and Mr. Chen lives. You live. Perhaps we can even come to an arrangement. What kind of arrangement? You're a talented woman, Commander Blackwood, wasted on bureaucrats who don't appreciate what you can do. The Pantheon values ability over politics. We could use someone with your skills. You want to recruit me, while your men are trying to kill me. They're trying to capture you. There's a difference, but I can see you're skeptical. Let me offer proof of good faith. Becca heard movement on the phone, then Marcus's voice, strained with pain. Becca, don't. It's a trap. Morrison has Emma's. The sound of a blow. Marcus cried out. As you can see, he's quite alive. Volkov continued smoothly. But his condition could deteriorate rapidly. The choice is yours. Becca's mind raced. Morrison has Emma's what location unit orders. I need time to think, she said. You have 2 minutes. Then my men come up those stairs and we do this the unpleasant way. The line went dead. Becca looked at her phone. The encrypted files were still there, backed up to 3 different cloud services. She could delete the local copies, but the backups would still exist, unless they had her passwords, unless they had access to her accounts. 1 minute, Volkov's voice called from below, now using a megaphone. 60 seconds, Commander. Becca ejected the magazine from the AK-47. 8 rounds left. Maybe 9 if there was one in the chamber. Against at least 4 trained operatives, possibly more outside. With a bad knee, minimal cover, and no backup. The smart play was to surrender. Trade herself for Marcus. Buy time. But Becca hadn't survived 25 years by making smart plays. She'd survived by making the plays no one expected. She pulled out the ceramic blade, still slick with blood from the first enforcer. Small, almost invisible. Easy to hide. Then she deleted the local files from her phone, but not the backups. Let them think she'd complied. 45 seconds. Becca stood up, hands raised, the AK-47 dangling from one hand by the strap. I'm coming down. Don't shoot. Weapons on the ground. Hands where we can see them. She laid the rifle down carefully, then started down the stairs, hands high. The ceramic blade was tucked into her waistband at the small of her back, hidden by her shirt. 4 operatives waited at the bottom, weapons trained on her. Professional stance. Good discipline. The one in front, a man in his 30s with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, gestured with his weapon. On your knees, hands behind your head. Becca complied, lowering herself slowly. Her knee screamed in protest. Scar eyebrow approached, pulling out zip ties. He grabbed her left wrist, started to pull it down behind her back. Tell Volkov I deleted the files, Becca said. Local copies only. The backups are still... She moved. Her right hand came down, not to be restrained, but to grab Scar Eyebrow's wrist. She twisted, using his own momentum to pull him off balance. Her left elbow smashed into his throat. He went down, choking. The other 3 operatives hesitated for half a second, not wanting to shoot their own man. Half a second was enough. Becca rolled, coming up with Scar Eyebrow's sidearm firing as she moved. 2 shots, 2 hits, 2 men down. The 4th operative, smarter or faster than his friends, had already dove for cover. Volkov, he shouted into his radio. She's armed again. Second attempt failed. Becca didn't wait to hear the response. She ran, ignoring the pain in her knee, heading for the back of the warehouse where she'd seen a loading dock during her initial assessment. Bullets chased her, sparking off concrete and metal. The loading dock door was partially open, daylight streaming through. Becca threw herself through the gap, rolling as she hit the pavement outside. A black SUV was parked 20 feet away, engine running. She sprinted for it. The driver's side window exploded as someone inside fired at her. Becca dove behind a dumpster, returning fire. 1 shot through the windshield. The shooting stopped. She approached carefully, weapon raised. The driver was slumped over the wheel, dead or unconscious. She yanked the door open, pulled him out, and climbed in. The keys were in the ignition. Thank God for small miracles. She threw the SUV into gear and floored its tires, screaming as she rocketed out of the warehouse district. Her phone rang. Volkov again. She answered on speaker, both hands on the wheel as she navigated through traffic. That was impressive, Volkov said, and he actually sounded impressed. You killed 4 of my best men in less than 60 seconds. Should have sent better men. Next time I will. But let's discuss the current situation. You have my vehicle. I have your handler. You have copies of files you shouldn't have. I have the deployment orders for Operation Phoenix, including the exact location where your daughter's unit will be in approximately 30 hours. Becca's hands tightened on the wheel. You're bluffing. Am I Lieutenant Emma Martinez, 2nd Marine Division, Charlie Company? She'll be leading a squad of 12 Marines in a coordinated sweep of a suspected cartel compound 17 miles east of Ciudad Juarez. The compound will be empty when they arrive, but the building will not be empty of surprises. Becca's vision tunneled. She forced herself to breathe. IEDs. Something more elegant. VX-7 nerve agent aerosolized, triggered by pressure plates throughout the structure. Your daughter and her entire squad will be dead within 90 seconds of entry. Their deaths will be attributed to the cartel. Morrison will ensure the investigation leads nowhere. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm offering you a trade. The real one this time. You give me every copy of those files, you disappear, and your daughter lives. Morrison diverts Charlie Company to a different location. Everyone goes home. Except Marcus. Mr. Chen knew the risks of this profession. You cannot save everyone, Commander. Choose who matters most. The line went dead. Becca pulled into a gas station, parking behind the building where the SUV couldn't be easily seen from the road. Her hands were shaking now, really shaking. Emma or Marcus? Her daughter or her handler? No. No, there had to be another way. She pulled out her phone, looking at the backups. 3 copies, 3 different services. If she deleted them all, Volkov would have no reason to keep his word. He'd kill Marcus anyway, and probably Emma too, just to tie up loose ends. But if she kept them, Emma died in 30 hours. Her phone rang again. Different number. Hello? Mom? Emma's voice tight with stress. Mom, where are you? I've been trying to reach you for 20 minutes. I'm okay, sweetheart. I'm okay. You don't sound okay. What's happening? Becca closed her eyes. How much could she tell her daughter without compromising operational security, without terrifying her? Emma, I need you to listen very carefully. Operation Phoenix is compromised. What? How do you know? I can't explain right now, but you need to talk to your CO. Tell them you received intelligence from a credible source that the target location may be booby-trapped with chemical weapons. Mom, I can't just walk into the captain's office with vague intelligence from my mother. Then tell them you received an anonymous tip. Tell them whatever you need to tell them. But do not under any circumstances let your unit enter that compound until it's been cleared by EOD and chemical weapons specialists. You're scaring me. Good. You should be scared. These people have already killed 3 Border Patrol agents. They'll kill you too if given the chance. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then, this is about Tommy Reeves, isn't it? About his father's friend who was asking questions. It's about a lot more than that. Emma, I need you to trust me. I know I haven't always been. I know I've put the mission first too many times. I know I've missed birthdays and holidays and important moments because I was somewhere else doing something classified. But I am asking you now, as your mother, please trust me on this. I trust you, Emma said quietly. I always have. Even when I was angry at you, I trusted you. Tears burned in Becca's eyes. I love you, sweetheart. Love you too, Mom. Be careful. Always. She ended the call and sat in the stolen SUV, breathing hard, trying to think. Emma would talk to her CO. The CO might listen or might dismiss it as paranoia. Either way, it bought time. Maybe. But Marcus was still in Volkov's hands, and Morrison was still out there pulling strings. Becca pulled up Jack Reeves's number. Jack, it's me. How many people can you get? I've got commitments from 7 so far. 3 more possibles. Why? Because this just got bigger. The Pantheon isn't just selling weapons. They're planning a mass casualty event targeting U.S. Marines. And they have my handler. Where are you? El Paso. I need a safe house. Somewhere off the books. I've got a place. Old hunting cabin, about 40 miles north of the city. Belonged to my uncle. Nobody knows about it except family. Send me the coordinates. Sending now. Becca. What do you need from us? I need to mount a rescue operation for Marcus Chen. I need to identify where Volkov is holding him. And I need to figure out how to take down Patricia Morrison before she kills my daughter. That's a tall order for 7 old guys with bad knees and worse backs. Can you do it? A pause. Then, Tommy was 24 years old. He had his whole life ahead of him. If Morrison is responsible, if she's the one who gave those weapons to the cartel, she is. I have proof. Then yeah, we can do it. We'll be at the cabin by 2200 hours. Thank you, Jack. Thank me when we're done. Becca pulled back onto the highway heading north. Her phone buzzed with incoming coordinates from Jack. She was 40 minutes out from the cabin when her phone rang yet again. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but in her line of work, unknown numbers sometimes meant intelligence. Yes, Commander Blackwood. A woman's voice. Cool, professional, familiar. Patricia. You sound surprised. Did you think I wouldn't find out you were digging into my operations? I'm surprised you're calling me yourself. Usually people in your position use intermediaries. Usually people in my position aren't dealing with someone who refuses to die. You've become quite the problem, Becca. I'm touched that you noticed. Volkov tells me you won't cooperate. That's disappointing. I thought you'd be more pragmatic about Emma's situation. Rage, white-hot and blinding, surged through Becca's chest. You leave my daughter out of this. Your daughter involved herself the moment she joined the Marines, the moment she accepted her deployment orders. She's a piece on the board now, just like everyone else. Why Patricia? Why betray everything you swore to protect? Morrison laughed bitter and sharp. You really don't know, do you? You really don't see it. See what? I gave 28 years to this country. 28 years of perfect service. I was better than 90% of the officers I served with. Smarter, more capable, more dedicated. But I watched people get promoted over me again and again. And do you know why? Becca said nothing, letting Morrison talk. Angry people revealed things. Because I didn't check the right boxes. I wasn't diverse enough. I wasn't part of the new military's vision. You know what my commanding officer told me when I asked why I was passed over for that consulting position 3 years ago? He said they needed to balance the optics, that you represented the direction they wanted to go. So this is about jealousy, about a promotion. This is about justice. I earned every rank, every commendation, every opportunity. You people got handed things because of what you are not who you are. You people, Becca's voice could have cut steel. I didn't get handed anything, Patricia. I earned my spot in Buds. I earned my trident. I earned every single mission and operation and commendation, just like you did. The only difference is you decided your resentment was worth more than your oath. My oath? Morrison's voice rose. My oath to what? A country that treats its best warriors like diversity statistics, a military that values politics over competence. Your oath to the Marines who are about to die because of your weapons. Your oath to the Border Patrol agents already dead. Your oath to every person who trusted you to do your job. They're all acceptable losses in a larger war. The Pantheon understands what our own country refuses to see. That strength is what matters. That excellence should be rewarded regardless of... The Pantheon is using you, Becca interrupted. You're not their partner. You're their asset. And when you're no longer useful, Volkov will discard you like trash. You don't know anything about my arrangement with them. I know how these organizations work. I've fought them for 25 years. They don't share power, Patricia. They exploit weaknesses. And your weakness was always your pride. Silence on the line. Then Emma dies in 29 hours. Marcus Chen dies in 12. You die whenever I decide you've suffered enough. Those are the facts, Becca. You can't stop what's coming. Watch me. Morrison ended the call. Becca drove in silence for 10 minutes, her mind working through scenarios, probabilities, options. Marcus had 12 hours. That meant wherever Volkov was holding him, it was close. El Paso, or the immediate surrounding area. A building probably isolated. Somewhere they could work without being disturbed. Emma had 29 hours. That gave Becca time to stop the operation, but only if she could get solid evidence to the right people, and only if those people weren't also compromised. The cabin appeared through the trees exactly where Jack's coordinates indicated. Small, weathered, almost invisible unless you knew it was there. Perfect. She parked the SUV behind the structure, hiding it from any aerial surveillance. Then she went inside. The cabin was basic. 2 rooms, a wood stove, some old furniture that looked like it dated from the 1970s. But it was clean, dry, and more importantly, off any grid. Becca pulled out her laptop connected to the internet via a mobile hotspot with encryption that would make the NSA proud and started going through the files she'd downloaded from Rojas's computer. 3 hours later, she had a timeline. 6 years ago, Morrison had been passed over for promotion to Brigadier General. 6 months after that, she'd made her first contact with the Pantheon through a front organization disguised as a private military consulting firm. The payments had started small. Information in exchange for cash, deployment schedules, equipment manifests. Nothing that seemed critical at the time. But over the years, the payments had grown, and so had Morrison's access. 2 years ago, she'd been assigned to the Defense Logistics Agency. Suddenly, she had control over equipment transfers across the entire southwestern United States. That's when the weapons had started flowing. Becca found the transaction records. Dozens of shipments, hundreds of weapons, ammunition, explosives, tactical gear, all officially recorded as transfers to legitimate military units or federal agencies. But the shipments never arrived at their destinations. They went to warehouses like the one where Rojas operated. They went to cartel operatives. They went to anyone the Pantheon wanted armed. And in return, Morrison's offshore accounts had grown to nearly $3 million. Becca was so focused on the files that she didn't hear the vehicle approaching until it was almost at the cabin. She grabbed her weapon, moving to the window. A pickup truck. Old battered. Wyoming plates. The door opened, and Jack Reeves climbed out, followed by 3 other men Becca recognized immediately. Frank Donovan, 53, former Marine Raider, built like a tank and twice as tough. Carlos Mendez, 51, former Navy SEAL, same class as Becca. One of the few people who'd never treated her differently because of her gender. And James J.T. Thompson, 55, former Army Delta. The oldest of the group, and the one who'd taught half of them everything they knew about urban combat. Jack saw her in the window and waved. Becca opened the door, and for the first time in hours, she felt something other than fear. She felt hope. "You look terrible," Jack said by way of greeting. "You look old," Becca shot back. "We're all old. That's why we're perfect for this. Nobody expects a bunch of retirees to be dangerous." The 4 men came inside, and Becca spread out the laptop, showing them everything she'd found. "Jesus," Frank muttered, staring at the transaction records. This is treason. This is about as clear-cut as it gets." "How many people has she killed with these weapons?" Carlos asked. 3 Border Patrol agents that we know of, but there could be dozens more. Cartel violence has spiked in this region over the past 18 months. A lot of those weapons probably came from Morrison's pipeline. "So what's the plan?" JT asked, his voice calm and measured. "Because I'm assuming you didn't call us here just to look at spreadsheets." "The plan is, we rescue Marcus Chen, we stop Operation Phoenix from turning into a massacre, and we take down Patricia Morrison before she can destroy any more lives." "That's 3 separate operations," Frank pointed out. "We've got 4 people. Well, 5 counting you." 7, Jack corrected. 2 more are driving in from Colorado. Should be here by midnight. Still, 7 people against an organization that's managed to compromise military intelligence funnel weapons to cartels and plan a chemical weapons attack on U.S. Marines. The math isn't great. Becca smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. "The math doesn't matter. What matters is they think we're harmless. They think we're old, washed up past our prime. They underestimate us. And that's when we hit them." Carlos finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. "Exactly." JT leaned back in his chair, studying Becca. "You've got 12 hours to find Marcus Chen. How are you planning to do that?" "I'm going to make Volkov tell me." "And how are you going to do that?" Becca pulled up a different file on the laptop. Bank records, transactions, patterns. Volkov is Pantheon, which means he's former Soviet intelligence, probably GRU. These people are professional, disciplined, careful, but they're not perfect. They make mistakes. She pointed to a series of transactions. Every week, someone makes a cash withdrawal from this bank in El Paso. $5,000, same day, same time. Wednesday afternoon at 3 p.m. "Today is Wednesday," Frank said slowly. "Today is Wednesday," Becca confirmed. "And it's currently 1:47 p.m., which means in a little over an hour, someone is going to walk into that bank and withdraw $5,000 in cash." "And you think it's connected to Volkov?" "I think the Pantheon doesn't trust electronic transfers for everything. I think they have couriers who move cash to pay for things they don't want traced. And I think if we follow that courier, they'll lead us right to wherever they're operating from." "That's a lot of assumptions," JT said. "You have a better idea?" He shook his head. "No. And even if I did, you'd do this anyway." "Damn right." Jack stood up, checking his watch. "Then we better move. Frank, Carlos, you're with me. We'll set up surveillance on the bank. JT, you stay here with Becca, work the digital side. See if you can find anything else that might help." "I should be going with you," Becca said. "You should rest," Jack countered. "You look like you've been through a war today. We can handle surveillance." "Jack." "Becca." His voice was firm but not unkind. "You're no good to Marcus or Emma if you collapse from exhaustion. Eat something. Sleep for an hour. Let us handle this part." She wanted to argue, but her body was screaming at her and she knew he was right. "Fine, but you call me the second you have something." "The second," Jack promised. The 3 men left and Becca was alone with JT. He pulled out a satellite phone and started making calls, reaching out to contacts who could provide additional intel. Becca found some canned soup in the cabin's minimal supplies, heated it on the wood stove, and forced herself to eat. Her body needed fuel. Then she lay down on the ancient couch just for a minute, just to rest her eyes. She was asleep in 30 seconds. She dreamed of David. Not the memorial service, not the flag presentation, not the grief. She dreamed of their last morning together. Coffee in the kitchen of their base housing. Him teasing her about her terrible singing voice. Her stealing his bacon off his plate. The kiss goodbye that was supposed to be routine. The kiss that became the last one. In the dream, he looked at her with those warm brown eyes and said, "You're going to save her. You always do." "I don't know if I can this time," she heard herself say. "Then don't do it alone. That's always been your problem, Becca. You think you have to carry everything yourself." She woke to JT shaking her shoulder gently. "They've got something." Becca sat up, instantly alert. The grogginess of sleep vanished like smoke. "What?" Courier showed up at the bank right on schedule. White male, late 30s, military bearing. Jack followed him to a warehouse on the south side of town. Industrial area. They're conducting surveillance now. Becca grabbed her phone. 4:23 p.m. She'd slept for almost 2 hours. Any movement in or out of the warehouse. 2 vehicles. One the courier arrived in. Another was already there. Black van, tinted windows. That's it. That's where they're holding Marcus. We don't know that for sure. That's where he is. JT studied her face, then nodded. "Okay, let's say you're right. What's the play? We go in tonight, fast and quiet. 7 people against an unknown number of hostiles in an unknown structure with unknown defensive measures." "You're saying the same thing Frank said. The math doesn't matter." "The math always matters, Becca." "Then we change the math." She pulled out her phone and made a call. It was answered on the first ring. "Lieutenant Foster?" "It's Blackwood. I need a favor. An unofficial one." "Ma'am, I really shouldn't." "You want to help the people you serve, Lieutenant. Then listen. In approximately 6 hours, there's going to be a situation at a warehouse in South El Paso. I'm going to send you coordinates. When that situation happens, there's going to be gunfire. Probably a lot of it. Ma'am, I can't authorize. I'm not asking you to authorize anything. I'm asking you to make sure that when the El Paso Police Department gets calls about shots fired at those coordinates, their response time is slow. Very slow." Silence. "How slow?" 30 minutes. That's a long time. It's enough time to rescue an American intelligence officer being held by foreign operatives and to secure evidence of military treason. Can you do it?" Another pause. Longer this time. "I can't do it officially." "I'm not asking officially. I know some people in El Paso PD from a training exercise last year. If I happen to mention that there might be a joint operation in that area tonight, that they should avoid that sector unless specifically requested, that would be perfect, Lieutenant. Ma'am, when this is over, assuming we all survive, I want the full story. You'll get it, I promise." She ended the call. JT was staring at her. "You just convinced a DIA operations officer to obstruct local law enforcement. I convinced him to give us room to work. There's a difference. If you have to ask, you've been retired too long." Despite everything, JT laughed. "Yeah, maybe I have." The 2 men from Colorado arrived at 11:47 p.m. Mike Patterson, 52, former Army Ranger with a prosthetic left leg below the knee, and David Kim, 49, former Air Force pararescue who'd pulled more people out of hell than anyone Becca had ever met. 7 warriors. Average age 51, combined experience over 200 years of military service. The warehouse holding Marcus was 3 miles away. "We go in at Aero 200, Becca said, spreading a hand-drawn map across the cabin's table. Jack had done excellent reconnaissance work marking entry points, guard positions, sight lines. 2 teams. Jack, Frank, and Carlos take the north entrance. JT, Mike, David, and I take the south. What about exfil? Mike asked. Same way we came in, fast and dirty. We get Marcus, we get out, no heroics. Says the woman who took down 8 cartel enforcers by herself this afternoon, Carlos muttered. That was different. I was angry. And now, Frank asked, now I'm furious. Jack checked his rifle, an old M4 that had seen better days but still fired true. Rules of engagement. Anyone holding Marcus is hostile. Anyone who gets between us and Marcus is hostile. Anyone who doesn't immediately surrender is hostile. We're not here to arrest people. We're here to bring our guy home. The room went quiet. What Becca was describing wasn't a sanctioned operation. It was a raid. Illegal by any official standard. We're all clear on what this means, JT said quietly. We do this. We can't walk it back. Our pensions, our benefits, everything we earned over decades of service could be gone. My son is already gone, Jack said, because someone like Morrison decided American lives were worth less than money. I'm done playing by rules that only protect the guilty. I'm in, Frank said immediately. In, Carlos echoed. In, Mike said. In, David added. JT looked at Becca for a long moment. Then he nodded. Let's go get our brother. They loaded into 2 vehicles at 1:30 a.m. Weapons checked. Body armor on. Comms tested. Becca rode with JT, Mike, and David. Her knee ached despite the painkillers she'd taken. Her ribs were bruised from earlier impacts. Her jaw was swollen where Rojas had hit her. She'd never felt more ready. You know, Mike said from the back seat, when I retired last year, my wife made me promise I was done with this stuff. She made me swear on our grandkids that I wouldn't take any more contracts, wouldn't go anywhere dangerous. So why are you here? Becca asked. Because some promises matter more than others. And the promise we all made when we put on the uniform was to never leave a man behind. That promise doesn't expire just because we got old. They reached the warehouse district at 1:53 a.m. The streets were empty. A few security lights cast pools of yellow illumination, but most of the area was dark. Perfect. Jack's voice crackled in Becca's earpiece. Alpha team in position. North entrance. 2 guards visible smoking cigarettes, armed with handguns. Sloppy. Becca's team moved through shadows to the south side. 1 guard here leaning against the wall, checking his phone. Bravo team in position, Becca whispered into her mic. 1 guard south entrance. Distracted. Execute on my mark, Jack said. 3, 2, 1, mark. David moved like a ghost despite being nearly 50. The guard never heard him coming. One moment he was scrolling through social media. The next he was unconscious on the ground. South guard down, Becca reported. North guard's down, Jack confirmed. Moving to entry. They breached simultaneously. Becca's team through a side door that David picked in under 10 seconds. Military-grade lock, civilian-grade technique. Didn't matter when you had 3 decades of practice. The interior was darker than outside. Becca's night vision goggles turned the world green and grainy. Shapes resolved into stacks of crates, vehicles under tarps, and in the center of the space a small room with light bleeding through cracks around a metal door. Contact, JT whispered. 3 hostiles, main floor, armed. 4 more upstairs, Jack added from his position. Looks like an observation post. Becca did the math. 7 guards outside and in, plus however many were in that lit room with Marcus. Alpha team take the upstairs. Bravo team takes the main floor and extraction. Copy. Becca moved forward, her team flowing around her like water. They'd done this dance 1,000 times in 1,000 places. The muscle memory was there even if the muscles themselves were older. The first hostile never knew they'd been infiltrated until Mike's arm wrapped around his throat from behind, unconscious in 4 seconds. In 4. The second one turned, saw them, opened his mouth to shout. Carlos's suppressed pistol coughed twice. The man went down. The third one was faster, smarter. He got his weapon up and fired. The shot went wide, but the sound was thunder in the enclosed space. Contact! We've got contact! Someone shouted from the lit room. The door burst open and 4 men rushed out, weapons raised. Becca fired 3 rounds. 2 hits. 1 man down. JT and David engaged the others. Muzzle flashes strobed in the darkness. The smell of gunpowder filled the air. Alpha Team status, Becca called into her mic. Engaging 4 hostiles upstairs, making it hot. More gunfire. Shouts in Russian and English. The warehouse had gone from silent infiltration to full combat in 30 seconds. A bullet sparked off a metal crate inches from Becca's head. She dropped, rolled, came up firing. Another hostile down. Mike grunted, stumbled. I'm hit. Right shoulder through and through. I'm okay. Nah. Fall back to the entry, Becca ordered. Not leaving without Marcus. That's an order, Marine. Mike hesitated, then nodded, falling back with David covering him. That left Becca, JT, and Carlos pushing toward the lit room. The door was steel reinforced. No way to breach it quickly without explosives. Jack, we need that upstairs clear. We're pinned down here. Working on it. These guys are pros, a voice called from inside the room. Volkov, Commander Blackwood, I'm impressed. You brought friends. Let Marcus go, Volkov. This doesn't end well for you. On the contrary, I have your handler. You have no leverage. I have 7 very angry veterans who are extremely good at killing people. That's all the leverage I need. Volkov laughed, the sound muffled by the door. 7 against 30. Yes, very threatening. 30. He had 30 men. They'd known going in they were outnumbered. They hadn't known by how much. Jack, Becca said quietly into her mic, tell me you're winning up there. We took the observation post, but reinforcements are coming. I see vehicles approaching from the east, multiple vehicles. This was about to get much worse. Time to exfil, JT asked. Becca looked at the door. Marcus was inside, wounded, maybe dying, and they were about to be overrun. No, she said. We came for him. We're leaving with him. She pulled a small charge from her vest. Military-grade explosive about the size of a deck of cards, enough to blow the door hinges. Everyone back. Breaching charge. She slapped the charge on the door hinges, set the timer for 5 seconds, and ran. The explosion was deafening in the enclosed space. The door buckled but didn't completely blow off. Good enough. Becca kicked it. Once. Twice. It fell inward. She went through the opening. High, JT went low. Carlos right behind them. The room was small, maybe 10 by 12. Marcus was zip-tied to a chair in the center, blood covering his face. 2 men stood behind him, weapons pointed at his head. Volkov stood in the corner, completely calm, a pistol in his hand, but not pointed at anyone. Ah, there you are, he said pleasantly, right on schedule. Let him go, Becca said, her weapon trained on Volkov. Or what? You shoot me. My men shoot him. Everyone dies. That doesn't seem productive. I'm willing to take that risk. But is he? Volkov gestured to Marcus, who raised his head with obvious effort. His left eye was swollen shut. His nose was broken. Dried blood crusted his shirt. But he was alive. Becca, Marcus croaked. It's a trap. Morrison, she's not in El Paso, she's in D.C. The attack. It's not just Emma's unit. It's the security conference, tomorrow morning. They're going to... One of the guards hit him. Marcus's head snapped to the side. Enough talking, Volkov said. Commander, here is the new situation. My reinforcements arrive in approximately 3 minutes. You are surrounded, outnumbered. Your only escape route will soon be cut off. So I offer you a choice. Leave now, run, live to fight another day, or stay and die here with Mr. Chen. Jack, Becca said into her mic, status on those reinforcements. 2 minutes out. Maybe 3 vehicles. We're looking at 15 to 20 more hostiles. 7 against 30 was bad odds. 7 against 50 was suicide. But Becca was looking at Marcus, at the way he was trying to stay conscious, at the determination in his one good eye. He'd come to the warehouse because he'd been tracking her. He'd put himself in danger to back her up. And she was supposed to just leave him. Counteroffer, Becca said to Volkov. You let Marcus go. We take him and leave. You keep breathing. Everybody wins. Except I have no reason to trust you'll actually leave. and I have no reason to trust you'll let him go." They stared at each other across the room, two professionals who understood exactly how this worked. "It appears we're at an impasse," Volkov said. "Appears so." Marcus coughed, blood spattering his lips. "Becca, go. I'm dead anyway. They're not letting me walk out. Save Emma. That's what matters." "Shut up, Marcus. I'm serious. I've been doing this job for 22 years. I knew what I signed up for. Your daughter didn't sign up to be murdered by her own chain of command. Go." Becca's mind raced. The security conference, Morrison in D.C., an attack on high-ranking military and intelligence officials. If that succeeded, the decapitation of American security infrastructure would be catastrophic. But Marcus was right here, right now, dying. 30 seconds to contact, Jack warned. "Becca, we need to move." She made the decision in a heartbeat. "JT, Carlos, get Marcus. Jack, we're coming out hot. Prepare for immediate exfil." "You're leaving," Volkov sounded genuinely surprised. "I'm adapting. That's what we do." She fired 3 shots. Not at Volkov. At the 2 guards. Both went down before they could react. JT and Carlos surged forward, cutting Marcus free, pulling him to his feet. Volkov raised his pistol, aiming at Becca. She fired first. The shot caught him in the chest. He staggered back, hitting the wall. But he was wearing body armor. He smiled through the pain. "You'll never make it out. Watch me." They ran. Marcus between JT and Carlos, barely conscious. Becca covering their rear. The warehouse was chaos now. Gunfire from multiple directions. Jack's team providing suppressing fire from the catwalks. "Alpha team, we have the package, moving to exfil." "Copy. We're coming down." Frank appeared from behind a stack of crates, firing his rifle in controlled bursts. Blood ran down his left arm. "Took one in the bicep, flesh wound. Keep moving." They burst through the south door just as the reinforcements arrived. 3 SUVs, headlights, blazing, men pouring out with military precision. "Contact rear," David shouted, firing from beside Mike, who was using a crate for cover despite his shoulder wound. "To the vehicles, go, go, go." They ran through the parking lot. Bullets chewed up asphalt around them. Carlos took a round to his vest. Stumbled but kept moving. Jack's truck was 20 yards away. 10 yards. 5. They piled in. Jack in the driver's seat. Becca in passenger. Everyone else in the back. The engine roared to life. "Hold on!" Jack floored it. The truck shot forward just as a burst of gunfire shattered the rear window. "Everyone okay?" Becca shouted over the sound of the engine and continuing gunfire. "Mike's shoulder is bad," David reported. "Frank's arm needs stitches. Carlos has cracked ribs from that vest impact. Marcus is in shock, but we're all breathing." "That'll do." They raced through empty streets, taking turns at random, making sure they weren't followed. Behind them, sirens finally started to wail. El Paso PD responding to what had to be dozens of reports about a small war in their industrial district. Lieutenant Foster had given them their 30 minutes. They made it back to the cabin at 2:47 a.m. David, the medic, immediately went to work on injuries. Mike's shoulder was clean through like he'd said. Frank's arm needed 12 stitches. Carlos's ribs were badly bruised but not broken. Marcus was the worst. 3 cracked ribs, broken nose, concussion, possible internal bleeding. "He needs a hospital," David said flatly. "I can stabilize him, but he needs a CT scan and probably surgery." "Can't risk a hospital," Becca said. "They'll be watching every ER in 100 miles. Then he might die." "He'll definitely die if Morrison's people find him." Marcus grabbed Becca's wrist with surprising strength. "DC," he rasped. "Morrison. Conference. 0900 tomorrow. VX7. Ventilation system. Whole building." "How many people?" Becca asked. 200. Maybe more. All senior leadership. CIA, DIA, NSA military brass. Everyone." The scope of it hit Becca like a physical blow. Not just Emma's unit. An entire generation of American intelligence and military leadership. "Who else knows?" JT asked. "No one," Marcus said. "Morrison isolated me. Said I was under investigation for leaking classified intel. She had me arrested, questioned, handed to Volkov. No one at the agency knows where I am." "Then we can't call this in through official channels," Frank said. "Anyone we contact might be compromised." We have to go ourselves, Becca said. Go where? Carlos asked. DC is 2,000 miles away. The conference starts in 6 hours. Becca pulled out her phone, checking flight times. No commercial flights that get us there in time. Military transport, Mike suggested. Not without authorization, which we don't have. They sat in silence, each of them understanding what this meant. They'd rescued Marcus. They'd survived against impossible odds, and now they were going to fail anyway because of simple logistics. Emma called at 3:14 a.m. Becca answered immediately. Emma, thank God. Tell me you talked to your CO. I did. He listened. He's concerned, but he wants more concrete intel before he scrubs the operation. Mom, do you have anything more specific? Locations times anything. Becca's mind raced. Morrison had fed Emma's unit false intelligence. The operation was designed to be compromised from the start. Emma, Operation Phoenix is a trap, the entire operation. Morrison designed it to target your unit specifically. How do you know that? Because we just rescued my handler from the people who are working with her. He confirmed everything. The cartel compound you're supposed to hit, it's wired with nerve agent. VX7, aerosolized. Emma's breathing hitched. That's not possible. Those coordinates came from Colonel Morrison herself. She said it was verified intelligence. She lied. Emma, you have to tell your CO to abort the mission. All of it. Every team, every unit, every aspect. I can't just, Mom, do you understand what you're asking? I'm a lieutenant. I can't walk into the captain's office at 3 in the morning and tell him to abort a multi-million-dollar operation based on my mother's intuition. It's not intuition. It's confirmed intelligence from a DIA handler who was tortured for this information. Then he needs to make the call, not you, not me, him. He can't. He's barely conscious. Emma, I know this is hard. I know I'm asking you to trust me over your entire chain of command, but that chain of command is compromised. Morrison is selling out our people, and she's targeting you specifically to hurt me. Silence on the line. Then quietly, why would she target me? Because 3 years ago I got a promotion she wanted. Because she blames people like me for her career stalling. Because she's bitter and angry and willing to kill to prove a point. That's insane. That's human. People do terrible things when they feel they've been wronged. Even people we trust, especially people we trust. Emma was quiet for a long moment. If I do this, she finally said, if I go to the captain with this information and I'm wrong, my career is over. I'll be seen as the officer who sabotaged a major operation because her mother had a conspiracy theory. And if you don't do it and I'm right, then a lot of good Marines die. Including you. Yeah, including me. Becca heard her daughter take a shaky breath. I'll talk to him. I'll show him what you sent me earlier. The files, the evidence. I'll make him listen. That's all I'm asking. Mom, when this is over, you and I need to have a serious conversation about your retirement. Despite everything, Becca smiled. Deal. I love you, sweetheart. Love you too. The call ended. Jack had been listening to the whole thing. That's one problem addressed. What about DC? I'm working on it, Becca said, but she had no idea how. Her phone rang again. Different number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. Blackwood. Commander Blackwood, this is Director Catherine Matt, NCTC. Becca went very still. Director, to what do I owe the pleasure at 3 in the morning? I've been monitoring the situation in El Paso. Reports of a significant firefight at an industrial warehouse. Local PD found multiple casualties, weapons, evidence of a kidnapping or hostage situation. They also found tire tracks from vehicles that fled the scene. That's so. It is. I also received a very interesting call about 30 minutes ago from a DIA operations officer named Lieutenant Foster. He told me I should speak with you immediately regarding a matter of national security. Foster's a good kid. He said you might need transportation assistance. Something about a conference in DC. Becca's heart rate kicked up. Director, I need to brief you on something. Something that's going to sound completely insane. I'm listening. Becca told her everything. Morrison, the Pantheon, Volkov, the weapons pipeline, Emma's compromised operation, the security conference, the VX7 nerve agent planned for the ventilation system. Matt listened without interrupting until Becca finished. "That's quite an accusation against a decorated colonel," Matt said carefully. "I have evidence, financial records, communications, testimony from my handler who was held by Morrison's co-conspirators. Evidence that would be inadmissible in any legal proceeding because of how it was obtained. I'm not looking to prosecute her. I'm looking to stop her from killing 200 people." Matt was silent for 10 seconds that felt like 10 hours. "I can have a military transport at El Paso International in 90 minutes. You'll be in DC by 0730. That gives you 90 minutes before the conference starts. Thank you, Director. Don't thank me yet. If you're wrong about this, Commander, both our careers end. And not just careers. We could both face criminal charges. I'm not wrong? Then get on that plane. And Blackwood, bring your team. If this is real, you're going to need them." The call ended. Becca looked at the 6 men around her. Injured, exhausted, old enough to know better. "We've got a plane," she said simply. "To DC," Jack asked. "To DC." "Then let's finish this," Frank said, wincing as David tightened the bandage on his arm. They loaded into vehicles again. Marcus stayed behind with David, who would monitor him and call for medical help if his condition deteriorated. The rest of them headed for the airport. The military transport was waiting on the tarmac exactly as Matt had promised. A C-130 cargo configuration. Not comfortable, but fast. They boarded at 4:52 a.m. The pilots didn't ask questions. They just fired up the engines and prepared for takeoff. Becca sat in the webbing seat, her weapon across her lap, and tried not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. JT sat beside her. "You know," he said conversationally, "when I retired, my daughter threw me a party. Big cake, lots of speeches about finally being done with the dangerous life. I bet that was nice." It was, but I was bored within a week, started taking security consulting jobs, then training contracts, anything to feel useful again. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I think you're struggling with the same thing. We spend our whole lives being who we are, doing what we do. Then someone decides we're too old and suddenly we're supposed to just stop. Supposed to pretend we're not still capable. I'm 48 years old, JT. My knee is shot. My hands shake sometimes. I need reading glasses. And yet you took down 8 armed men by yourself yesterday. You planned and executed a hostage rescue tonight. You're about to stop a terrorist attack on American soil. Tell me again how you're past your prime." Becca laughed, but it came out bitter. "I'm tired. I'm so damn tired of fighting, of constantly having to prove I belong. David died believing I'd stop, that I'd finally just live instead of always preparing to die. Then live. But don't confuse living with quitting. You're still the woman who refused to wash out of buds, who completed every mission they ever gave you, who raised a daughter brave enough to serve. That woman doesn't just stop being dangerous because she got older. She gets refined," Becca said quietly, remembering what she'd told Rojas. "Exactly." The plane reached cruising altitude. Someone dimmed the cabin lights. Becca closed her eyes, but she didn't sleep. She thought about Morrison, about the bitterness that could turn a dedicated officer into a traitor, about how easy it was to blame others for your own disappointments. She thought about Emma probably arguing with her CO right now, putting her career on the line based on her mother's word. She thought about Marcus barely clinging to life because he'd tried to back her up. And she thought about David, about his last words to her before that final deployment. "Promise me you'll live." She'd promised. And she'd kept that promise by surviving. But surviving wasn't living. It was just not dying. Maybe it was time to figure out the difference. The plane landed at Joint Base Andrews at 7:22 a.m. They had 98 minutes. Director Matt was waiting on the tarmac with 3 black SUVs and a problem written all over her face. "We have a situation," she said before Becca even reached the bottom of the aircraft stairs. "Colonel Morrison arrived at the conference center 40 minutes ago. She's inside right now supervising security arrangements. She's already there." Becca's stomach dropped. As the senior logistics officer, she has full access to the building. She's been in and out for the past week coordinating equipment, personnel, security protocols. If she's planning to use the ventilation system, she's had plenty of time to plant the agent. Then we go in now, clear the building. On what authority I can't evacuate a classified security conference based on intelligence gathered through illegal means by a team of retired operators who just shot up a warehouse in El Paso? Then what do you suggest? Becca demanded, frustration boiling over. We stand here and watch 200 people die. I suggest we be smart about this. Morrison doesn't know you're here. She doesn't know Marcus is alive. She thinks she's won. That gives us an advantage. Jack stepped forward, his voice calm. What's the building layout? Matt pulled out a tablet displaying blueprints. 3 floors. Main conference room on the 2nd floor. That's where everyone will be gathered. Ventilation system is controlled from the mechanical room in the basement. If she's planning to deploy nerve agent through the vents, that's where it'll happen. How many people does Morrison have with her? JT asked. Unknown. She brought a team of 6 as official security, but they could all be Pantheon. Or none of them could be, Frank pointed out. She might be operating alone using legitimate security as cover. Becca studied the blueprints, her mind working through scenarios. We need to split up. One team goes to the mechanical room. One team finds Morrison. We need to do both simultaneously. You're forgetting something, Matt said. The moment you walk into that building with weapons, you'll be stopped by legitimate security. Real federal agents doing their jobs. You shoot them, you become the terrorists. Then we don't go in armed, Becca said. We go in as conference attendees. Morrison won't recognize most of my team. She knows me, but she doesn't know Jack or the others. Conference attendees with security clearances that take weeks to verify, Matt countered. Unless they're already verified. Director, you have the authority to add names to the attendee list, don't you? Matt's eyes narrowed. You want me to falsify security credentials for 6 people. I want you to save 200 lives, however that needs to happen. For 5 long seconds, Matt said nothing. Then she turned to her aide. Get me the conference coordinator. Tell them we have 6 last-minute additions. National security priority. I'll send over the names and photos in 2 minutes. She looked back at Becca. You have 1 hour. If nothing happens by 0900, if there's no attack, if Morrison is clean, I'm arresting all of you. Fair enough. They loaded into the SUVs. Becca rode with Jack and Frank. JT, Mike, and Carlos in the 2nd vehicle. Matt and her security team in the 3rd. The conference center was 20 minutes away through morning DC traffic. Becca's phone rang. Emma. Mom, the captain listened. He's pulling our unit from Operation Phoenix. He's also requesting an investigation into Colonel Morrison's approval of the mission parameters. Relief flooded through Becca so powerfully, she had to close her eyes. Thank God. Emma, you just saved your entire unit. The captain wants to talk to you. He wants to understand how you knew. Tell him to call Director Catherine Matt at the National Counterterrorism Center. She'll brief him. Mom, where are you? DC. About to stop Morrison from killing a lot of very important people. You're what, Mom, you can't just... I love you, Emma. I have to go. She ended the call before her daughter could argue. Jack glanced at her from the driver's seat. She okay? She's alive. Her unit's alive. That's what matters. And if we fail here, then at least I saved my daughter. Not good enough, Frank said from the back seat. We don't do partial victories. We finish the mission. They arrived at the conference center at 8:17 a.m., 43 minutes until the conference started. Security at the entrance was thorough. Metal detectors, ID verification, background checks. Matt's credentials got them through. 6 last-minute additions cleared by the NCTC director herself. The security guards didn't like it, but they didn't have the authority to refuse. Inside the building hummed with pre-conference activity. Staff setting up equipment. Early arrivals networking. Official photographs being taken. And somewhere in this building, Patricia Morrison was preparing to murder them all. Split up, Becca said quietly. Jack, Frank, you're with me. We find Morrison. JT, Mike, Carlos, you head to the mechanical room. Stop anything that looks wrong. What does wrong look like? Carlos asked. You'll know it when you see it. They separated. Becca's team headed for the 2nd floor where senior officers would be gathering. JT's team found the stairs to the basement. The 2nd floor was already crowded. Generals, admirals, intelligence directors. The combined experience and knowledge in this room represented decades of institutional memory, all of it about to be erased if Morrison succeeded. Becca scanned faces looking for the one that would end this. "There," Jack said quietly, nodding toward the far corner. Patricia Morrison stood near the window speaking with two men in suits. She looked completely at ease. Professional. Competent. A trusted officer doing her job. "We need to get her alone," Frank said. "Can't confront her here with all these witnesses." "Then we wait for her to move." They positioned themselves near the exit, trying to look natural. Just 3 more attendees at a security conference. Morrison finished her conversation and walked toward them, heading for the hallway. Becca stepped into her path. Morrison stopped. Recognition flashed across her face, followed by something else. Not fear. Calculation. "Commander Blackwood, this is unexpected. We need to talk, Patricia. I'm quite busy at the moment, perhaps later." "Now." Morrison glanced at Jack and Frank, assessing the situation. "Are these men with you?" "They are. And they're not the forgiving type." "Forgiving of what? I haven't done anything requiring forgiveness. You sold weapons to cartels. You compromised Operation Phoenix. You're planning to release VX-7 nerve agent into this building's ventilation system. Which part would you like to start with?" Morrison's expression didn't change, not even a flicker. "Those are serious accusations. Do you have evidence?" "I have your financial records, your communications with the Pantheon, testimony from my handler who you gave to Volkov. Marcus Chen is dead. I received confirmation this morning." "You received bad information. Marcus is alive, and he's talking to federal investigators right now." That got a reaction, just a tiny tightening around Morrison's eyes. "You're bluffing." "Am I? Then let's call his phone. See who answers." Morrison's hand moved toward her pocket. Jack caught her wrist. "I wouldn't," he said quietly. "You're assaulting a superior officer." Morrison said, her voice perfectly level. "In a building full of federal agents and military police. This won't end well for you." "It's already not ending well," Becca said. "The only question is whether 200 people die with us." Morrison smiled. Actually, smiled. "You think you've stopped something. You think finding me prevents the attack. But you're wrong, Becca. You're so wrong." Becca's blood ran cold. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm not the one who planted the device. It means I'm just here to watch, to be present when it happens so no one suspects me. I'll be a victim like everyone else, or would have been if I hadn't felt unwell this morning and stepped out for air right before the attack." "Where's the device?" Becca demanded. "In the building. That's all you need to know." Jack tightened his grip on Morrison's wrist. "Tell us, or I break every bone in your hand, starting with your thumb." "You won't. Not here. Not with witnesses." "Try me." Morrison looked at him, seemed to see something in his face that made her recalculate. "Even if I told you, you wouldn't find it in time. It's on a timer, set to release at 0900 exactly. That's..." She checked her watch. 37 minutes from now. The building is over 40,000 square feet. Good luck searching it all. Becca pulled out her phone, calling JT. "Status. We're in the mechanical room. Nothing obvious here. Standard HVAC equipment. No visible devices." "It's somewhere else. Morrison says it's on a timer. 37 minutes. That's not enough time to search the whole building." "I know. But we have to try. Start with anywhere that connects to the ventilation. Any access points. Any..." An announcement came over the building's PA system. "Ladies and gentlemen, the conference will begin in 30 minutes. Please take your seats in the main hall." People started moving, flowing toward the conference room. "We need to evacuate," Frank said. "Pull the fire alarm, clear the building." "No," Morrison said, and she was smiling again. "The device is tamper-proof. It's wired to multiple triggers. Fire alarm, smoke detector, even significant changes in air pressure. Any attempt to evacuate triggers immediate release." "You're lying," Becca said. "Am I..." "Go ahead and pull the alarm. See what happens." "Of course, if you're wrong, everyone in this building dies 30 minutes early. Can you live with that risk?" Becca wanted to hit her. wanted to put her fist through Morrison's smug face. But she was right. If the device really was tamper-proof, triggering it early would be worse than waiting. JT, do not trigger any alarms. Do not touch anything that might be booby-trapped. Just look. Copy. Matt appeared pushing through the crowd. What's happening? Why is Morrison? She saw Jack holding Morrison's wrist. Oh. She's confessed, Becca said. The device is in the building. Timer set for 0900. She claims it's tamper-proof. Then we evacuate quietly. Get people out without triggering any alarms. She says it's also triggered by pressure changes. Too many people leaving at once could set it off. Matt stared at Morrison. You're insane. You're willing to kill yourself to make a point. I'm willing to die to prove that our military has become weak, Morrison said. That we promote incompetence over excellence. That we've betrayed everything we once stood for. By murdering 200 of our best people, that makes us stronger. It makes us start over. The Pantheon will fill the void. They'll rebuild what should never have been torn down. The Pantheon are Soviet relics clinging to a war they lost, Becca said. You're not joining something visionary. You're joining bitter old men who can't accept that the world moved on without them. Better bitter old men who understand strength than weak new leaders who understand nothing. Becca's phone buzzed. Text from JT. Found something. Access panel behind the boiler. Recently installed. Doesn't match building specs. Don't touch it, Becca texted back. Morrison says it's booby-trapped. Getting Mike to look at it. He did EOD for 10 years. Careful. Becca looked at Matt. We might have something. Basement. Behind the boiler. How much time? 34 minutes. Matt grabbed her radio. I need bomb disposal and hazmat teams to this location immediately. Full chemical protocol. They won't get here in time, Morrison said. Washington traffic. Emergency protocols. Best response time is 45 minutes. You're going to fail, Becca. Just like you failed to stop the weapons pipeline. Just like you failed to save those Border Patrol agents. You're always too late. Becca hit her. Not a slap. A real punch straight to Morrison's jaw. Morrison's head snapped back. Jack had to catch her to keep her from falling. Feel better? Morrison asked, blood on her lip. Not really, but it was still worth it. Matt was staring at her. Commander, you just assaulted a... I know what I did. Arrest me later. Right now we need to focus on not dying. Another text from JT. Mike says it's sophisticated. Electronic timer. Chemical sensor. Pressure trigger. Needs at least 20 minutes to disarm safely. Maybe more. They didn't have 20 minutes. Can he do it? Becca texted. He says he'll try. But if he's wrong, we all die. Becca looked around the hallway. People still arriving. Still settling in. Completely unaware that they had 32 minutes to live. She thought about Emma safe now, but about to lose her mother. She thought about David, who died in a split second. At least he hadn't known it was coming. She thought about all the missions she'd survived, all the close calls, all the times she should have died but didn't. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was where her luck finally ran out. No, she said aloud. Jack looked at her. No, what? No, I'm not dying here, not today, not like this. She grabbed her phone, calling Mike directly. Mike, it's Becca. Can you disarm that device? Maybe. If I have time, if I'm lucky, if I don't make a mistake. That's not good enough. Can you move it? Silence for 3 seconds. Move it where? Outside. Away from the building. Somewhere it can't hurt anyone. Becca, this thing is wired to a dozen different triggers. Moving it would almost certainly set it off. Almost certainly isn't the same as definitely. Can you disconnect the motion sensors without triggering the timer? In theory, but if I'm wrong, if you're wrong, you die a little sooner than the rest of us. Mike, I need you to trust your training. Trust your experience. Can you do this? Another pause. Longer this time. Yeah, I can do this. Then do it. JT Carlos, you help him. Get that device outside. Get it as far from this building as possible. Copy. Matt grabbed Becca's arm. You're gambling with their lives. I'm gambling with all our lives, but doing nothing is guaranteed death. At least this way, we have a chance. Morrison was watching her with something that might have been respect. You really don't quit, do you? Not until I'm dead, and maybe not even then. Becca's phone showed the time. 8:47 a.m., 13 minutes. Matt, I need you to quietly position your security team at every exit. If this goes wrong, if the device detonates early, I want people moving immediately. Don't wait for alarms. Just get them out. That could trigger the pressure sensors Morrison mentioned. She might be lying about that. We know the device exists. We don't know about the extra triggers. Matt considered this, then nodded. I'll position my people. But Blackwood, this better work. It will. It has to. Matt hurried off. Jack and Frank stayed with Becca, still holding Morrison. What do we do with her? Frank asked. We keep her right here. If this building blows, she goes with it. I'm not afraid to die, Morrison said. Everyone's afraid to die. You're just too proud to admit it. Becca's phone buzzed. JT. We've got it. Mike disconnected the motion sensors. We're carrying it now, heading for the parking garage exit. How long to get it clear? 2 minutes to reach the exit. Another minute to get it far enough away. We've got, 11 minutes on the timer. Move faster. Moving as fast as we can. This thing weighs 60 pounds and we're trying not to jostle it. Becca closed her eyes, counting seconds. The PA system came on again. Ladies and gentlemen, the conference will begin in 10 minutes. Please take your seats. People were filing into the main conference room now, settling in, chatting, completely normal. Becca wanted to scream at them to run, to evacuate, to get as far away as possible. But she couldn't. Not without risking everything. 8 minutes, Jack said quietly, checking his watch. Becca's phone rang. Not a text. A call. We're in the parking garage, JT said, his voice tight with stress. Mike's looking for the best place to put this thing. Anywhere away from people. Working on it. There's a dumpster at the far end. If we put it behind that, the blast should be contained. Should be. Best I can offer. 6 minutes, Becca. Do it. Put it down and run. We're not leaving it. If something goes wrong, if it detonates early, someone needs to be here to warn you. JT, that's suicide. That's the job. Always has been. The line stayed open. Becca could hear breathing footsteps, the sound of something heavy being set down. Device is positioned, Mike said. I'm going to try one more thing. There's a manual override. If I can access it, I might be able to stop the timer. How long will that take? 3 minutes. Maybe 4. You have 5. Make it work. Doing my best. Becca stood in the hallway with Jack and Frank and Morrison and hundreds of people who had no idea how close they were to death. 4 minutes. Mike, talk to me. Working. The override is encrypted. I'm trying to bypass it. 3 minutes. Mike. I know. I'm going as fast as I can. Morrison was watching her with that same calculating expression. You're going to fail, she said softly. You're going to watch everyone die because you weren't good enough. Shut up. That's what you're afraid of, isn't it? That's what keeps you awake at night. The fear that one day you won't be fast enough, smart enough, strong enough. That all your training and experience won't matter because the world moved on and you didn't move with it. I said shut up. David died because he wasn't fast enough. Emma almost died because you weren't there. Marcus almost died because you couldn't protect him. How many more people are going to die because Commander Rebecca Martinez wasn't quite good enough? Becca turned and looked at Morrison. Really looked at her. You want to know what I'm afraid of? I'm afraid of becoming you. I'm afraid of letting bitterness and resentment turn me into someone who kills the people she swore to protect. I'm afraid of waking up one day and realizing I've spent so long fighting that I forgot what I was fighting for. She leaned closer. But here's the difference between us, Patricia. When I'm afraid, I fight harder. When you're afraid, you burn everything down. That's not strength. That's cowardice. 2 minutes. Mike, almost there. Just need another yes, I've got it. I'm bypassing the encryption. 1 minute. Becca held her breath. Timer's still running. 30 seconds. Can you stop it? Trying. 20 seconds. Mike, get out of there. Not without stopping this thing. 10 seconds. Mike. Got it. Timer's stopped. Devices disarmed. We're clear. Becca's legs nearly gave out. Jack caught her arm. We're clear, she repeated. We're clear. Matt's voice came over the radio. All security teams stand down. Threat neutralized. Repeat, threat neutralized. Morrison's face had gone blank. No, that's not possible. The device was foolproof. Nothing's foolproof, Becca said. You should have remembered that before you bet everything on a timer. Federal agents were moving through the building now. Matt had called them in as soon as Mike confirmed the device was disarmed. They arrested Morrison on the spot, cuffed her, read her rights. She didn't resist. Just stared at Becca with eyes full of hate and something else. Regret, maybe. Or just the realization that she'd thrown away 28 years for nothing. You haven't won, Morrison said as they led her away. The Pantheon is bigger than me, bigger than Volkov. They'll come for you, Becca. They'll come for Emma. This isn't over. Maybe not, but you're done. That's enough for today. They took her away. The conference started 10 minutes late. Nobody except the security teams and Matt's people knew how close it had been. Becca sat in the parking garage with her team, all of them too drained to move. We did it, Carlos said like he couldn't quite believe it. We did it, Becca confirmed. Tommy would be proud, Jack said quietly. What we did today, we honored him, all of them. They sat in silence for a while. 7 warriors who'd proven they weren't done yet. Becca's phone rang. Emma. Mom, I just heard from Captain Rodriguez. He said there was an incident in D.C., some kind of terrorist plot. He said you were involved. I was. It's handled now. Are you okay? I'm okay. Mom, I know you said we'd talk later about your retirement, but I need to say something now. Emma, let me finish. I was wrong. I've been wrong. I thought wanting you to retire meant I was protecting you. But really, I was just scared of losing you like we lost Dad. And that fear made me selfish. Sweetheart, you're not selfish. I am. I am because I was asking you to be someone you're not. You're a warrior mom. You've always been a warrior, and warriors don't stop fighting just because they hit some arbitrary age. They stop fighting when there's nothing left to fight for. Do you still have something to fight for? Becca looked at Jack, at Frank, at Carlos and Mike and JT. She thought about Marcus recovering in a secure facility. She thought about the 200 people who were alive because 7 old veterans had refused to quit. Yeah, she said, I still have something to fight for. Then keep fighting. I'll stop being scared and start being proud. You've always made me proud. Same, Mom, same. They talked for a few more minutes, and when Becca hung up, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not the peace of retirement, the peace of purpose. Matt found them an hour later, still sitting in the parking garage like they were too tired to leave. The president wants to meet you, she said. Which one? Frank asked. We've worked for 3 of them. The current one, tomorrow. White House. All of you. We're not really dressed for the White House, Carlos pointed out, gesturing to their rumpled clothes and visible injuries. I don't think he'll mind. Commander Blackwood, there's going to be an investigation. Multiple investigations. Everything Morrison did, everyone she worked with, the entire Pantheon network. The Justice Department is already involved, so is the FBI. This is going to take years to unravel. But it will be unraveled, Becca said. Yes, thanks to you. Thanks to all of us. I didn't do this alone. No, you didn't. Which is why I'm here with an offer. The NCTC is expanding our veteran outreach program. We need experienced operators who can identify threats, coordinate responses, train the next generation. We need people who've proven they can do impossible things. Interested? Becca looked at her team. Are we interested? Hell yes, Jack said immediately. I'm retired, broke and bored. Sign me up. The others nodded agreement. Then welcome to the team, Matt said. Official paperwork starts Monday. Until then, you're all on administrative leave. Go home, rest, heal, spend time with family. They dispersed slowly. Jack heading back to Wyoming, Frank to Georgia, Carlos to California, Mike and David back to Colorado, JT to his daughter in Virginia. Becca stayed in D.C. one more day. She visited Marcus in the hospital. He looked terrible but alive. You saved my life, he said. You saved mine first. We're even. No, we're not. I owe you, Becca. When you need something, anything, you call me. I will. She flew home the next morning. Home to the empty house she'd been rattling around in for 3 years. The house that had felt like a monument to everything she'd lost. But when she walked in that afternoon, it felt different. It felt like a starting point. Her phone buzzed with a message from Emma. Coming home for the weekend, Chinese food and a movie. Your choice of film. My choice of restaurant. Becca smiled and typed back. Deal. And Emma, thank you. For what? For understanding. She put her phone down and looked around the house. At the photos on the wall. David in uniform. Emma at graduation. Herself at buds, young and determined and convinced she could take on the world. She'd been right. She could take on the world. She just needed to remember that the world included other people. That strength wasn't isolation. That asking for help wasn't weakness. Patricia Morrison had forgotten that, had let pride and bitterness turn her into something unrecognizable. Becca wouldn't make that mistake. She pulled out her laptop and started typing an email to Matt. About that job offer. I have some ideas for the veteran program. I think we can do more than train people. I think we can build something that proves experience matters, that older operators have value, that 48 isn't finished, it's refined. Let's talk Monday. She sent the email and closed the laptop. Then she went into the kitchen, opened a bottle of wine, and sat on the back porch watching the sunset. Tomorrow she'd start planning, start building, start proving what she and her team had demonstrated. But tonight she'd just sit here and remember David's smile. Remember the way he'd believed in her even when she didn't believe in herself. I kept my promise, she said to the empty air. I'm living, not just surviving, living. Somewhere in the gathering darkness, she could almost hear him answer. I know. I always knew you would. 3 months later, Becca stood in front of 23 women ranging in age from 19 to 47. They'd come from every branch of service, every background imaginable. Some were active duty considering special operations. Some were veterans looking for purpose after leaving the military. Some were civilians who'd heard about the program and wanted to prove something to themselves. The training facility was 2 hours outside D.C., built on land the government had forgotten it owned. Matt had secured funding through channels Becca didn't ask about. Sometimes bureaucracy worked in your favor if you knew the right people. My name is Commander Rebecca Martinez, Becca said, her voice carrying across the converted warehouse they'd turned into a training center. I'm 48 years old. I was the first woman to complete Navy SEAL training. I spent 25 years in special operations. 3 years ago, I retired because I thought I was supposed to. Because society told me I was done. Because even I started believing that 45 was too old to be dangerous. She paused, letting that sink in. I was wrong, and I'm here to make sure none of you make the same mistake. One of the younger women raised her hand. Becca nodded at her. Ma'am, I read about what happened in D.C., about Colonel Morrison. Is it true you stopped a terrorist attack with a team of retired operators? It's true. 7 people. Average age 51. We went up against one of the most sophisticated terrorist organizations in the world, and we won. Not because we were young or fast or strong. We won because we refused to believe we were finished. Another hand went up. An older woman, maybe 42, with the bearing of someone who'd seen combat. What makes this program different from regular special operations training? Regular training assumes peak physical capability. It's designed for people in their 20s and early 30s. This program is different. We teach you to use experience as a weapon, to use psychology tactics and intelligence to overcome physical disadvantages. We teach you that 40 isn't old, 50 isn't old. You're only old when you stop learning, stop adapting, stop fighting. Jack appeared in the doorway carrying equipment. Behind him came Frank, Carlos, Mike, JT, and David, the team that had become something more than teammates. They'd become proof. "These are your instructors," Becca said. Combined, they have over 200 years of military experience. They've operated on 6 continents. They've faced every kind of threat you can imagine, and they're going to teach you everything they know. "Why?" someone called out. "Why are you doing this?" Becca thought about Tommy Reeves, about Marcus Chen, about the 200 people who'd almost died in that conference center. Because the world needs warriors who don't quit. Because experience matters. Because someone needs to prove that getting older doesn't mean getting weaker. It means getting surgical. Training started the next day. 16-hour days, combat tactics, weapons training, intelligence gathering, psychological warfare. Everything Becca and her team had learned over decades compressed into an intensive 12-week program. It was brutal. 3 women dropped out in the first week, 2 more in the second week, but the ones who stayed got stronger. Not just physically, mentally, psychologically. Becca was working with a 36-year-old Army veteran named Sarah on hand-to-hand combat when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But old habits died hard. Martinez. "Commander Blackwood, how delightful to hear your voice again." Becca's blood went cold. She knew that accent. "Volkov." Sarah noticed her expression, immediately went for her weapon. Becca shook her head, mouthing, "It's okay." "I'm surprised you're alive," Becca said, walking away from the training area for privacy. "I shot you in that warehouse. Body armor, quite effective. Though I'll confess the bruising was spectacular. You have excellent aim." "What do you want?" "To congratulate you. The operation in DC was quite impressive. Morrison is in federal custody. Her network has been dismantled. You've won." "If I've won, why are you calling?" "Because winning a battle isn't the same as winning a war. The Pantheon is larger than Morrison, larger than my cell in Texas. We have operations in 17 countries, connections in 20 governments. You stopped one attack. There will be others." "Then I'll stop those too." Volkov laughed, warm and genuine. "I believe you would try, which is why I'm calling. I want to offer you the same deal I offered Morrison. Join us. Bring your skills, your team, your program. We compensate extremely well, and you'd be working for an organization that truly values capability over politics. I'm not interested in working for bitter Cold War relics. We're not relics, we're visionaries. We understand that the current global order is failing, that weak leadership and political correctness have made Western nations vulnerable, that strength and competence should be rewarded regardless of age, gender, or background. You tried to kill 200 people to prove that point. We tried to remove compromised leadership. There's a difference. Not to the people who would have died. Commander, you of all people should understand. You've spent your entire career fighting bureaucrats who underestimated you, who passed you over, who questioned whether a woman belonged in special operations. We don't question. We evaluate based solely on results. Isn't that what you've always wanted? Becca thought about Morrison, about how that exact thinking had turned a decorated officer into a traitor. I wanted recognition, Becca said carefully. I wanted respect, but I wanted to earn it within the system, not by burning the system down. That's the difference between soldiers and terrorists, Volkov. Soldiers protect, terrorists destroy. Sometimes destruction is necessary for renewal, and sometimes it's just destruction. Goodbye, Volkov. She ended the call and immediately contacted Matt. We've got a problem. Volkov is still operational. He called me directly, tried to recruit me. Can you trace the call? Already working on it. But he's smart. He's probably using a burner, probably already destroyed. Matt, he said the Pantheon has cells in 17 countries. Morrison was just one operation. I know. We've been tracking their network since DC. It's bigger than we thought. Much bigger. Which is why I'm glad you called. I need your help with something. What? There's a situation developing in Prague. Intelligence suggests Pantheon activity. We're sending a team to investigate. I want you to lead it. When? Next week. Can your program spare you for a few weeks? Becca looked back at the training center at the women working through combat drills. My team can handle things here. Yeah, I can go. Good. Briefing is Monday. Bring whoever you think you'll need. That night, Becca sat with Jack Frank and JT in the training center's makeshift office. Prague, Jack said. Haven't been there since '94. Beautiful city. Terrible beer. The beer's improved, JT said. Trust me, I was there 2 years ago. Consulting job. Matt wants us to investigate Pantheon connections. Find their network. Dismantle it before they can launch another attack. How big a team? Frank asked. 6. You 3 plus Carlos, Mike, and me. David stays here to run the training program. When do we leave? Monday. Frank leaned back in his chair, his injured arm now fully healed. You know, when I retired, I thought I was done with international operations. Thought I'd spend my golden years fishing and annoying my grandkids. Instead, I'm planning a mission to Prague to fight Soviet remnants who won't admit they lost. You could say no, Becca pointed out. Could, won't. This is what we do. This is who we are. JT nodded agreement. Besides, somebody has to make sure the young folks don't get all the glory. They spent the weekend preparing. Gear checks, intel reviews, language refreshers for those who'd need them. Emma called Sunday night. Mom, I heard you're heading overseas. Who told you that? Captain Rodriguez. He's friends with someone in your chain of command. He mentioned it casually. Mom, is this going to be a regular thing now? Probably. Matt wants my team available for international operations. Turns out there's value in operators with experience who don't look like typical military. I worry about you. I know. But Emma, I'm good at this. This is what I was trained for. What I spent 25 years doing. I can't just turn that off because I hit some arbitrary age. I know, I do. It's just hard sometimes, watching you go into danger. It's hard for me watching you serve. But I'm proud of you. So proud. You're becoming the officer I always hoped you'd be. I learned from the best. They talked for another hour. About Emma's unit. About the investigation into Morrison. About Becca's training program. How are the recruits? Emma asked. Strong, smart, determined. Some of them are better than I was at their stage. And the older ones, the veterans in their 30s and 40s, they understand things the younger ones don't. They've lived enough to know why this matters. Will you take women from my generation, people still active duty? That's the goal. Create a pipeline. Show that capability doesn't expire at 35. That women can serve at elite levels throughout their careers. I want in, Emma said suddenly. After my current rotation, I want to apply to your program. Becca's heart swelled. You'd have to complete the full 12 weeks. I won't give you any special treatment. I don't want special treatment. I want the training. I want to learn from you and your team. I want to be part of proving that we don't have to choose between being women and being warriors. Then you're in, assuming you pass the evaluation. I'll pass. I know you will. Monday came too fast. Becca and her team flew to Prague on a military transport. 18 hours of cramped seating and bad coffee. They landed at 0600 local time. Matt had arranged a safe house in the Old Town district, tourist area, easy to blend in. The briefing came via secure video link at 0800. Intelligence indicates Pantheon leadership is meeting in Prague within the next 72 hours, Matt explained. We don't know the exact location. We don't know how many will be present. But this is our chance to take out a significant portion of their command structure. What's our ROE? Carlos asked. Observe and report. If you can capture, capture. If you can't, eliminate the threat. But avoid civilian casualties at all costs. Any idea what they're planning? Becca asked. We've intercepted chatter suggesting another attack. Somewhere in Europe. Possibly a NATO target. We need to stop them before they can coordinate. What kind of support do we have? Local CIA station is aware you're in country, but won't interfere unless requested. Czech intelligence is not aware. This is off books. So if we get caught, we never existed. Exactly. The video link ended. Jack looked at the team. Off-books international operation in a foreign capital against an unknown number of hostiles. Anyone else feeling nostalgic for the good old days? Every damn day, Frank said. They spent the first day conducting surveillance, establishing patterns, identifying potential meeting locations. Prague was beautiful in October. Cool air, changing leaves. Tourists everywhere providing perfect cover. They split into pairs. Becca with Jack, Frank with Carlos, Mike with JT. Contact, JT's voice came through the comms at 1423. Male 40s matching description of known Pantheon operative. Moving east on Karlova Street. Follow him, Becca ordered. Everyone else converge on that location. They tracked the operative for 3 hours, through the Old Town, across the Charles Bridge, into the Lesser Town district. He entered a building at 1712, 4 stories, residential, no obvious security. What do we think? Jack asked quietly. Could be a meeting location, could be a safe house, could be nothing. Want to go knock? Not yet. Let's watch. See who else shows up. They watched until dark. 3 more men entered the building, all matching descriptions of Pantheon operatives. That's not a coincidence, Carlos said. No, it's not. Becca made the call. We're going in. Tonight. 0200. Standard breach and clear. Questions. Rules of engagement, Mike asked. Capture if possible. Lethal force authorized if necessary. Intel first. Casualties second. They spent the next hours preparing. Gear checks. Building layout review. Contingency planning. At 0147 they moved into position. At 0200 exactly they breached. The ground floor was empty. They moved up the stairs. Weapons raised, night vision active. Second floor. Clear. Third floor. Contact. 2 guards in the hallway. Professional setup. They spotted Becca's team immediately. Suppressed weapons coughed. Both guards went down. Third floor secure. Moving to fourth. The fourth floor was a single large room. Conference setup. 8 men around a table. They looked up as Becca's team entered, not with surprise, but with resignation. In the center of the table sat Dmitry Volkov. Commander Blackwood, he said calmly. You're early. We weren't expecting you until tomorrow. Surprise. Indeed. Well, since you're here, shall we talk? We're past talking, Volkov. Are we? Because I think you'll want to hear what we have to say, especially regarding your daughter. Becca's weapon didn't waver. What about my daughter? She's currently deployed with her unit. Standard patrol. Very routine. Except we have operatives embedded within her support structure. One word from me and Lieutenant Martinez experiences a very unfortunate training accident. You're bluffing. Am I call her right now? See if she answers. Becca pulled out her phone, never taking her eyes off Volkov. She dialed Emma's number. No answer. She tried again, straight to voicemail. You have 10 seconds to tell me where she is. Becca said, her voice deadly quiet. She's fine, for now. She's simply in a location where cell service is poor. Happens all the time in military operations. But it could become permanent if you make the wrong choice here. What choice? You leave. Right now. You return to America. You disband your little training program. And you never come after the Pantheon again. In exchange, your daughter lives a long, safe life. She serves her time. She retires honorably. She has children and grandchildren and everything you want for her. And if I refuse, then she doesn't make it home from her next deployment. Accidents happen in combat. IEDs, friendly fire, equipment malfunction. So many ways for a soldier to die. Jack's voice in Becca's ear barely a whisper. He's stalling. There's something else here. Becca realized it the same moment. The setup was wrong. 8 men around a table, but no computers, no documents, no evidence of an actual meeting. This was a trap. "Everyone out!" Becca shouted. "Now!" They turned to run, but the door they'd entered through was blocked. 6 men with weapons appearing from hidden positions. "I'm sorry it came to this," Volkov said, standing. "I genuinely hoped you'd accept my offer. You're talented, wasted on a system that doesn't value you." "The only thing I'm wasted on is this conversation." Becca fired, not at Volkov, at the window behind him. Glass exploded. Cold air rushed in. "Go!" she shouted to her team. They moved. Frank and Carlos engaging the hostiles blocking the door. Mike and JT heading for the window. Jack covering Becca. Gunfire erupted. Close quarters. Chaotic. Becca took a round to her vest. The impact knocked her back, but the armor held. She returned fire. 3-round burst. 1 hostile down. Mike was at the window securing a rappelling line. "We've got egress move." One by one they went out the window. Mike first. JT, Carlos, Frank, Becca and Jack were last covering the retreat. "Ladies first," Jack said. "Age before beauty," Becca countered. "I'm 53, you're 48. Move your ass." She grabbed the line and went over the edge just as bullets sparked off the window frame above her head. The drop was 4 stories. Her hands burned on the rope despite gloves. Her bad knee screamed as she hit the ground, but she was alive. The team regrouped in an alley 2 blocks away. Everyone accounted for. Various injuries, but nothing critical. "That was a setup," Frank said, breathing hard. "They knew we were coming." "How?" Carlos demanded. "This operation was completely classified." "Someone told them," Becca said grimly. "Someone in our chain of command." They made it back to the safe house at 0337. Becca immediately tried Emma's number again. No answer. She called Emma's CO, got his voicemail. She called the base. After 10 minutes of being transferred, she reached someone who could help. "Lieutenant Martinez is fine, ma'am. She's currently on a training exercise, radio silence protocol. She'll be back on base tomorrow morning." Relief flooded through Becca so powerfully she had to sit down. "Thank you. Can you have her call me as soon as she's available?" "Of course, ma'am." Becca ended the call and looked at her team. "Emma's fine. Volkov was bluffing about having operatives near her." "But not about us being compromised," JT said. "Someone knew we were coming to Prague. Someone fed intel to the Pantheon." "We need to get out of the country," Jack said. "If they knew about the operation, they know about this safe house." "Agreed. Pack up. We leave in 20 minutes. They were loading vehicles when Becca's phone rang. "Matt. Commander, we have a problem. The Prague operation was compromised. Someone leaked your mission parameters to the Pantheon. We figured that out when they were waiting for us. Who leaked it? That's the problem. I don't know. The briefing was classified top secret. Only 7 people had access. 3 are CIA, 2 are NSA, 1 is my deputy director, and me. One of those 7 is a mole." "Yes, which means I can't trust my own organization, which means you're operating completely alone until we identify the leak. How long will that take?" "Could be days, could be weeks. In the meantime, you need to go dark. No official channels, no communications except through emergency protocols." "Matt, we can't stop the Pantheon if we're cut off from intelligence. You can't stop them if you're dead. Volkov knows where you are. He knows your capabilities. He knows how to find you. Until we eliminate the mole, you're exposed." Becca looked at her team. 6 warriors who'd trusted her with their lives. "Understood. We're leaving Prague now. I'll contact you when we're secure." "Be safe, Commander. And Blackwood, I'm sorry. I should have seen this coming." "You trusted your people. That's what leaders do. It's not your fault one of them betrayed that trust." They left Prague at 0430, driving south toward the Austrian border. Behind them, sirens wailed as Czech police responded to reports of gunfire in the Old Town. They crossed into Austria at 0647, found a small hotel outside Salzburg, paid cash. No names. "Now what?" Frank asked as they secured the rooms. "Now we figure out who the mole is," Becca said. "Because until we do, we can't trust anyone. And the Pantheon keeps operating." "How do we identify a mole in an organization we're not part of?" Carlos asked. The same way we've solved every problem. We think, we analyze, we find the patterns. She spread out everything they knew on the hotel room table. Names, dates, operations, communications. Someone's been feeding information to the Pantheon for months, maybe longer. Morrison had help covering her tracks. Volkov knew we were coming to Prague. There's a pattern here. We just have to find it. They worked for hours, cross-referencing, comparing, looking for connections. JT found it at 1323. Look at this. Every compromised operation had one thing in common. They all went through the same intelligence analyst for vetting. He pulled up a file on his laptop. Captain Jennifer Walsh, CIA, 12 years of service, fluent in Russian, stationed in Moscow from 2008 to 2011. Moscow, Becca said slowly. Same time frame as Volkov's operations there. That's not proof, Jack pointed out. No, but it's a thread. Let's pull it. Mike started digging into Walsh's background. Financial records, communications, travel history. What they found was damning. Regular payments to offshore accounts, encrypted communications with known Pantheon operatives, travel to Prague the week before Becca's team arrived. She's the mole, Becca said. Walsh is feeding them everything. We need to tell Matt, Carlos said. We can't. Not through official channels. Walsh could intercept the communication. Then how do we stop her? Becca thought about Volkov, about Morrison, about the pattern of betrayal that seemed to infect every organization they touched. We don't tell anyone. We just stop her ourselves. Stop her how? Frank asked. We make her come to us. We feed her false information through a channel we know she's monitoring. We tell her we've identified the Pantheon's next target. We tell her we're moving to intercept. And when she passes that information to Volkov, we're waiting. That's using ourselves as bait, JT said. That's using ourselves as hunters. There's a difference. They spent 2 days setting the trap. False communications, fake intelligence, a carefully constructed story about a Pantheon weapons cache in Berlin. Walsh took the bait. They tracked her communications, watched her pass the information to her Pantheon handlers. She's moving, Mike reported. Flight from DC to Berlin. Arrives tomorrow morning. Then so do we. They reached Berlin at 0600, found the abandoned warehouse they'd identified as the fake weapons cache location, and they waited. Walsh arrived at 1430 with 4 Pantheon operatives. They entered the warehouse expecting to secure weapons and eliminate witnesses. They found 6 very angry veterans instead. The fight was short, brutal. Walsh tried to run. Jack stopped her. It's over, Becca said, weapon trained on the CIA analyst. You're done. Walsh stared at her, and Becca saw in her eyes the same thing she'd seen in Morrison's. Not fear. Resignation. You can't win, Walsh said. The Pantheon is everywhere. We have people in every agency, every government. You stop me 10 more. Take my place. Maybe, but you won't be there to see it. They called Matt on a secure line, gave her Walsh's location, provided all the evidence they'd gathered. Matt sent a team within the hour. They arrested Walsh and the 4 operatives. Good work, Commander, Matt said over the phone. We'll interrogate Walsh, find out how deep this goes. It goes deep. Morrison, Walsh. Volkov said they have operations in 17 countries. This is just the beginning. Then we keep fighting. We don't give up. We don't quit. No, Becca agreed. We don't. They returned to the States 3 days later. Emma was waiting at the airport in uniform, having gotten leave to meet her mother. Hey, Mom. Hey, sweetheart. They hugged, and Becca felt something shift. Not just in her relationship with Emma, but in herself. She'd spent 3 years trying to figure out who she was without the uniform, without the missions, without the constant fight. She'd been asking the wrong question. She wasn't Rebecca Martinez without those things. She was Rebecca Martinez because of those things. The uniform didn't define her. The missions didn't define her. But they were part of her, as essential as breathing. And trying to cut them away hadn't made her more whole. It had made her less. I'm proud of you, Emma said, for everything you've done, everything you're doing. I'm proud of you too. You're the best thing I ever did. You and your father. He'd be proud too, you know, of both of us. I know. They drove back to the training center together. Becca expected it to be quiet, empty. The trainees wouldn't return for another week. But when they arrived, the facility was full. Not just her team, not just the trainees. There were 50 women there, maybe more. Different ages, different backgrounds, all waiting. Jack saw her confusion. Word got out, he explained, about what you're building, about what you proved in DC and El Paso and Prague, about what your program represents. They want in, all of them. Becca looked at the faces, young women who wanted to prove themselves, older women who refused to be forgotten, veterans who needed purpose, civilians who wanted to be part of something bigger. I can't train all of them, she said. So we expand, Jack said simply. We bring in more instructors. We build more facilities. We create something that changes how the world sees women in combat. We create something that proves capability doesn't have an expiration date. That's going to take resources, funding, political support. Matt's working on it, so is the president. Turns out stopping terrorist attacks and dismantling international criminal organizations earns you some goodwill. Emma touched Becca's arm. Mom, you changed the world. You proved that 48 isn't finished, that women don't age out of capability. That experience makes us dangerous, not weak. Now finish what you started. Build something that lasts. Becca looked at her daughter, at her team, at the women waiting to be trained. She thought about Patricia Morrison, who'd let bitterness destroy her. She thought about the warehouse in El Paso, where 8 men had underestimated her. She thought about David, who'd believed she could be anything she wanted. All right, she said, let's build something. 6 months later, the program had expanded to 3 facilities, 200 trainees, 40 instructors, official Pentagon support and funding. They called it the Blackwood Initiative. Becca had tried to name it something else, but Matt had overruled her. You started this. Your name goes on it. Emma had completed the 12-week course, top of her class. She was now serving as an assistant instructor while maintaining her active duty status. Jack ran the tactical training division. Frank handled hand-to-hand combat. Carlos taught intelligence gathering. Mike specialized in explosives and EOD. JT managed long-range operations. David oversaw the medical and survival training. They'd become proof that experience mattered, that older operators weren't liabilities, they were force multipliers. Morrison's trial had concluded, life in prison without parole. Volkov was still at large, but Interpol had warrants in 40 countries. Walsh had cooperated, providing details on Pantheon operations worldwide. The organization was wounded, not destroyed, but diminished. Becca stood in the training center on a warm spring morning watching a group of women work through urban combat drills. They ranged in age from 22 to 51. They moved with confidence born of training and belief. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Martinez. Commander Blackwood, it's been a while. Volkov. I thought you'd learned to stop calling me. I wanted to congratulate you. The Blackwood Initiative is quite impressive. You've created something meaningful, something that proves your point about capability and age. I'm genuinely impressed. I don't need your approval. No, you don't. But I wanted you to know that despite our differences, despite the fact that we're enemies, I respect what you've accomplished. You proved something important. That 48 isn't finished. That experience is valuable. That warriors don't have expiration dates. Why are you really calling Volkov? Because the Pantheon is changing. We're adapting, learning, and I wanted to extend one final offer. Join us. Bring your program. We'll fund it. Support it. Give you resources beyond anything the Pentagon can provide. No political interference. No bureaucratic limitations. Just pure capability training. My answer is still no. I thought it would be, but I had to try. You're wasted on a system that still doesn't fully appreciate what you are. Maybe. But it's my system, my country, my people, and I'll keep fighting for it until I can't fight anymore. Even if it means fighting people like me for the rest of your life. Especially if it means that. Because someone has to. Someone has to stand against people who think destroying is easier than building. Someone has to prove that service matters, that honor matters, that protecting the innocent is worth more than money or power or revenge. Volkov was quiet for a long moment. You're a rare person, Commander Blackwood. In another life, we might have been allies. In another life, you might not have been a terrorist. Perhaps. Goodbye, Commander. I suspect we'll speak again. I suspect we will. And next time I'll make sure you can't walk away. She ended the call. Emma approached, having witnessed the conversation. Volkov again. Yeah. Still trying to recruit me. At least he's persistent. At least he recognizes talent when he sees it. They stood together watching the trainees, watching the future being built one drill at a time. Mom, I've been thinking about what comes after this program, about where we go from here. Where do you want to go? I want to keep serving, but I also want to be part of what you're building. I want to prove that women don't have to choose between family and career, between service and life, that we can do both. Be both. You already are. So are you. That's what I'm learning. You spent so long thinking you had to be one thing or another, soldier or mother, warrior or woman, but you're all of it. You always were. Becca felt tears sting her eyes. Your father used to say something similar. He said I was trying so hard to prove I belonged that I forgot I already did. He was right. You belonged because you were capable, because you were determined, because you refused to quit. Not because you were a woman or despite being a woman, just because you were you. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. They hugged, and Becca realized something fundamental had shifted. She'd spent 3 years lost. 3 years trying to figure out who she was without the military defining her. She'd been asking the wrong question. The military hadn't defined her. It had revealed her, shown her what she was capable of, given her tools to be the person she was always meant to be. And that person didn't stop existing at 45 or 48 or 55. That person would keep existing until the day she died. Jack called from across the training floor. Becca, we've got 12 new applications, all veterans, all over 40. We're going to need to open a 4th facility. Then we'll open a 4th facility, she called back. You know, this is going to take over your life, right? Between training and operations and speaking to Congress about funding, you're going to be busier than you ever were on active duty. Good. I was getting bored anyway. That night, alone in her office, Becca pulled out a photo of David, the one taken a month before he died. Him in uniform, smiling at something off camera. Probably her. She'd been making a joke about his haircut. I kept my promise, she said to the photo. I'm living, really living, not just surviving. And I think I finally figured out what that means. It means doing what I was meant to do. Not because I have to prove anything. Not because I'm trying to fill a void. Just because this is who I am. She set the photo back on her desk. Thank you for believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. Her phone buzzed. Text from Matt. New situation developing in Tokyo. Pantheon activity suspected. Need your team available in 72 hours. You in? Becca smiled and typed back. We're in. She stood up, looking out the window at the training facility, at the women who would graduate in 8 weeks, at the instructors who'd proven that experience was a weapon, at the future they were building together. Somewhere out there, Volkov was planning his next move. The Pantheon was regrouping. New threats were emerging, and Rebecca Martinez, 48 years old, retired Navy SEAL, would be ready for all of it, because she'd finally understood what David had been trying to tell her all those years ago. Living wasn't about safety. It wasn't about comfort. It wasn't about following society's expectations of what a woman her age should do. Living was about being fully yourself, about using every skill, every experience, every lesson learned to make the world better, about refusing to let anyone tell you that you're finished just because you hit some arbitrary age. They'd called her harmless. They'd tied her up. They'd underestimated her. And she'd shown them exactly what happened when you underestimate a woman who's survived what she's survived. She didn't get weaker with age. She got refined. She got surgical. She got dangerous. And she wasn't done yet. Not even close.